no time.
Lost. Times. Darkness. Tears.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, you guys.
Today is Charles Whitman.
It's Friday. Look, he's got his Flock of Seagulls shirt on,
That's
finally.
right.
I bought him that a long time ago, and it's like, I bought you that for Christmas, right? Yeah, I bought you that for Christmas.
Yeah, I've worn it a couple times.
And he's only worn
That's
it
good.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
I totally forgot you had it. You hadn't worn it for so
Fucking
long.
right. It's got to go. Tom,
Looking
I know
like-
I know you're fucking with me. Stop wearing that goddamn shirt. At least you're wearing a shirt with a handsome man on the front of it.
Well, I like that he's like, you know, I'm looking like super
Yeah.
serious and pissed off this way.
Yeah.
I'm looking super serious and
Yeah.
pissed off this way.
They got 5 of me on that shirt. Fucking go.
There's only 4 of them, not 5.
No, there's one,
1, 2, 3, 4.
I thought there was a piece of one. Okay. No, there's no. All right.
Tom can't count. You heard it here
No, I was
first.
looking in there.
Just Bees for now says, hey, I got the same shirt on as Jenny. Yeah. It's like this one. I kind of feel like this is one that I made that's like a little bit crooked. It's hard to like fit things over my boobs because my boobs are also crooked. They are. One's bigger than the other.
Okay.
Well, it's just like most people's like boobs, most people's feet. Like one's bigger
You
than
can't
the
really
other.
tell, though. You can't tell, though.
I can tell.
Yeah, it's because they're yours. You can't really
So I have to
tell.
look at the stupid things all the time. You know what I mean? So they're just right there. I can't even look at my feet without seeing them. Zach says, hey, y'all, Jenny and I tried that thing you said about having kilt with ice in it. What?
I don't know what
Kilt
it's
with ice in it, and it was amazingly refreshing. What's a kilt with ice in it?
I don't know. You misspelled
Yeah, was that an autocorrect
Yeah.
happenstance there? Because I'm like, wait,
It's probably
what?
milk.
Yeah, milk with ice in it?
I don't know.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Move on. What else?
Who the fuck puts ice in their kilt? Says
Yeah.
DJ Maniac. Your balls would freeze instantly. Yeah, that's maybe it was milk with ice in it, which I must have mentioned on some show at some point because I really like milk with ice in it. But yeah. How do I join for $20 a month for merch and help you guys out? Just go to our Patreon page and become a patron.
Yeah.
Or you alternately, you can go to PayPal because I have a PayPal account and it's actually just under my name, which is Jenny Ashford, or my email address, which I'll give you if you message me. And you might be able to do like a rolling, because I mean,
like an auto pay.
like an automatic pay, because I do that on what is it? Fucking Welcome to the Basement.
Yeah.
They have a PayPal, and like I give them like
We just
$5
have to
a month
figure out.
rolling.
We just have to make sure that we will remember him on Shirt Day.
Yeah, well, I would.
You would?
Because I
Okay.
always check. I always check Patreon as well.
Okay.
Because remember, we used to have that that young lady that gave us $20 a month on Patreon like pretty regularly. So I always like got her a shirt too.
Okay.
So you know,
You mean PayPal? You mean PayPal?
PayPal. Yeah. You know what I mean. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I did mean milk with ice in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I put ice in everything because it's Florida and it's hot as balls, and you can't really. I don't really like to drink anything that's room temperature or even like refrigerator temperature. Everything has to be like Arctic temperature. Otherwise, I'm not down with it. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying. Speaking of Patreon, I think I forgot to mention one of our patrons, Sydney, actually actually doubled their support like this past week. And I meant to mention on a Wednesday, and I think I forgot because we got into the whole Manly Man discussion, and then we were just like drinking.
That show was a
and
disaster.
It
That show was a disaster.
But it was a beautiful disaster. Yeah. But like I said, that's why we have a sidetrack show so that we can just like get drunk and like be like, bah!
It didn't have anything to do.
Talking about.
It didn't have anything to do with that subject. We went off. We got sidetracked off of that one. 'Cause, you know what I mean? But
we can't even keep to one fucking. Yeah. We're terrible.
I couldn't really keep on that subject, and there wasn't a lot of audience fucking interaction about it, so we just fuck it, just went on other shit.
I know. Juan says, happy Friday, Tom and Jen. How are you both? We're pretty good. Thank you very much. It is Friday. I'm a little bit sleepy, but I think I'm going to be okay. Which maybe, I mean, we're kind of thinking about going out after the show.
I think we should.
So, I mean, just to Mannequins, which isn't
Yeah.
far. We're not, like, going all the way to downtown Orlando or anything.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. I'll get some. I have some iced coffee, so I felt like after the booze, I was like, why don't you give me some iced coffee and give me some caffeine that'll like wake me up.
Esther said the Wednesday show was great. I suggested the topic, and we'll take the heat. It wasn't so much the topic. I thought it was going to be a good topic. It's just it's hard to stay. It was hard to stay on that topic.
Well, it's hard for us to stay on any topic. Well, it's hard for you to stay on any topic. Let's say that.
Okay. Well, just you know what I mean. Thinking, I don't know. It's just I just got to get in the mood and fucking go down that groove. You know what I mean?
That's what I mean. Well, and I think that's what a lot of people like about the show. Like I said, if you guys have been with us forever, it's like every now and then I still get a comment like, "Hey, I came here to hear about X, whatever the topic was," and you guys just went on about a bunch of different stuff. I'm like, "Oh, you must be new here."
Yeah. Right.
But it's just kind of like we eventually get around to like talking about the topic.
Yeah.
But sometimes it might take a while. But people need to like just relax. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have anywhere to go.
That's what I mean. Just let shit ride,
if
man.
you had
Just let it
somewhere
ride.
to go, you wouldn't be listening to a YouTube show.
To a 4-hour fucking.
Yeah, you can. You can go on Wikipedia and look at some shit.
Because honestly, like, if I'm gonna, like, the only time, like, if I'll listen to, like, a 4-hour show about something, I usually have that going on in the background, like, while I'm working on stuff. Like, while I'm working on, like, graphic design or whatever.
People
so
are
it's
driving and listening.
Yeah, so it's like, I like having somebody's voice in the background. Like, it's either scary stories or it's, like, really, really long.
Yeah.
Like podcasts or just really, really long. Like I said, I like Jade the Libra because I just like her voice, and she's just going out shopping for Halloween decorations.
Yeah.
And she'll do like an hour or two of doing that, and it's just kind of like, I don't know. There's just something really nice about that. Oracle said the sidetracks are so much fun. Yeah, we have a fun time doing those too. I think that's kind of like, that's probably the thing I look forward to the most because
They're easy.
they're easy. It's like I don't have to do any research. It's like if shit goes off the rails, it doesn't really matter because you know what I mean. We're just doing that for
Mostly
people
just
that are into the
audience
show.
interaction.
Yeah. So it's super fun. But yeah, so there we go. Should I go?
But I'm sitting there. It's supposed to be what makes a manly man. It's difficult to say, but definitely the soy boys are not manly. You know what I mean? There's a lot of that going on, and the sedentary lifestyle of a lot of millennials sitting down in offices, fucking doing office work all day fucking long. You're not gonna produce much fucking testosterone doing that, because it takes physical activity to do it. So you're just gonna not go through puberty properly. I mean, some of these guys look like they don't go through puberty. I'm looking at the dude, he's like 25. He looks like he's about 14.
Well, what are you gonna do? Like I said, I'm not judging.
Right.
People just.
Well, I'm kind of judging.
You live the way you
kinda
want to
judging.
live. You will live the way you
I don't think they chose that. They were forced into that by the job market.
Well, I mean, there's not really a lot of. I mean, nobody's out there like fucking
And they don't
building
really,
railroads or
they also
anything
don't.
anymore.
They also don't really know any better, because they're all kind of growing up like that, or a lot of them.
Fourth row down says testosterone and wigs make a manly man.
Fucking right. Fucking right.
And then DJ Maniac said, I live a cemetery lifestyle.
Yeah.
Right? Same. So yeah. Fox Obsidian the Fourth says, I really like the sidetracking. It gives me more of you guys to listen to while at work, making the day better. So yay, see.
Thank you.
Karen says
the show was kind of conceived based upon radio shows anyway.
well, yeah, like I said, it's kind of more of like a hangout. And sometimes, we have a topic that we're kind of like orbiting around.
Right.
But, Karen says, Jenny, I got my daughter that Overlook shirt. She loves it. So do I. I love that shirt too. There's so many like good Shining shirts. I'm just going to have to like get fucking, Camp Guy said, I'm embarrassed to be off topic so much. I just haven't seen a lot of the movies. That's fair. I mean, there's a million movies I still need to see too. Even though I've seen a lot, but I still have a big, huge, ever-growing list of shit.
Yeah.
So this show, I'm sorry to say, this show is kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
It's really weird because I was looking earlier, I'm doing like research about the show and everything, and I usually try to watch like a panoply of different documentaries about shit. There's really not a lot of documentaries about this guy.
It was a long time ago.
There was, well, yeah, but it's like that doesn't really matter. There's a zillion documentaries about Jack the Ripper, and that was like more than 100 years ago. Yeah, it's like it's a mass murder type situation. But I don't know. I always thought this was a really interesting case. Like, I kind of felt like it popped up in like pop culture a lot in the 60s and 70s, but then I don't think it necessarily got forgotten about, but it's one that doesn't really get brought up all that much when they're talking about mass murders or mass shootings, even though, I don't know, I always found it really interesting. Like I said, we talked about it a little bit because we did that movie, The Deadly Tower, with Kurt Russell in it, where Kurt Russell was playing...
Great movie.
Was playing Charles Whitman.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the real case then, but I kind of wanted to dive more into it. And it's funny because we just rewatched Full Metal Jacket too, and there was like also a reference to Charles Whitman in there being a Marine, and that's where they taught him to be a sharpshooter. Although I will say that that's not entirely accurate, because actually his dad taught him to shoot, and he was like really, really good at shooting before he went into the Marines. So it wasn't necessarily the Marines that taught him.
A lot of those guys were, though.
Yeah.
That was common. If you go to the guys that volunteered for the Marines back then, the same kind of guys that volunteered for the Army infantry now, a lot of them grew up shooting, especially the ones that ended up in the Rangers.
Yeah.
So at least during my time, I don't know what it's like now. But yeah, in case you guys don't know who Whitman is, I think everybody probably knows who Whitman is. He's a guy that went up on top of this big old tall tower and started shooting people. Yeah. Pretty much at random.
The Texas Tower. Well, at random.
Pretty
Texas
much at random.
Tower sniper.
Well, no, it's not pretty much at random. I mean, it was, or not totally at random. He was aiming at a university, wasn't he? And then he'd go down and shoot at some cars, and then he'd go back up
No, he didn't do that. No.
Okay, I thought he did.
No, he stayed up in the tower the whole time. He actually...
No, I mean, I know he stayed in the tower. I'm saying I thought he was shooting at a campus most of the time.
Well, he had gone there prior.
Yeah, and then he would shoot at some cars, if I remember correctly.
Oh, I don't know if he shot at any cars.
Okay,
he was mostly just shooting at people.
Okay.
You know, it's a fucked up.
I thought he shot at some cars.
Story.
But maybe not.
Yeah, Oracle's saying that that she lives in Austin, and they still talk about it here, which obviously that's where it happened. So you know. Thank you, Victor. I'm 2 degrees separated from today's topic. My high school principal was on campus that day. I can't even imagine how fucking horrifying that must have been. I watched, actually, if you go on YouTube and you search for Charles Whitman or search for Texas Tower Sniper, there's actually like a news special that came out back then, like in 1966. And it's like a half hour, like 25 minutes or something like that. And I guess it came out like the same day or the day after that the shit actually happened. And it's just really interesting, like seeing the news from like 1966, and they were kind of cutting back to like interviewing people that had like, you know, gone in there like while he was still shooting to like drag dead bodies out of the way and stuff like that. And it was just like, it was some crazy shit. But that was kind of like the only, I don't know, like I said, there weren't really a lot of, I think there was a little bit about him on that show Most Evil, but it was just kind of like a, you know, like an 8-minute segment. It's really weird how they didn't really, even though I think he's like a fascinating, from a psychological standpoint, I think he's like a fascinating character. You know.
Yeah, I don't really think so. I thought whatever. I don't think he was that fascinating.
Okay.
What he did was a fucking trip, but I don't think he was very special.
Well, no, I didn't mean that. Okay. I didn't mean special. I just meant it was interesting because of the whole tumor situation.
Yeah.
Because of
bring it up already.
Or maybe, you know, we'll get into that. Like I said, I think that's kind of like something that's well known.
It was just a natural disaster. The guy had a fucking tumor. The guy had a brain tumor. He wasn't thinking right.
Yeah, David June said it's not a tumor.
Yeah. It's not a what?
It's not a tumor.
What does that mean?
You never saw that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Not a tumor. No.
What fuck movie was that? Was it Kindergarten Cop? I think it was Kindergarten Cop.
I never saw that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just had a damn brain tumor. He thought his mom was trying to kill him. He thought everybody was after him.
He didn't think his mom was trying to kill him.
I thought his mom was trying to kill him.
No.
Didn't he write something about her in his?
But it wasn't that.
Okay. He was crazy.
Well, I know that, but it's like
normal.
He didn't say. He actually loved his mom, and he wrote extensively. Because he wrote like a lot of suicide notes, and he left like a lot of stuff, you know, explaining what he had done. But he never said anything about his mom.
Oh, okay.
He hated his dad. He didn't kill his dad though.
All right. He wasn't acting. He wasn't. You know, I don't think he was totally responsible for what happened. I think it was a natural disaster. He had a brain tumor.
Yeah.
And, you know.
And I mean, obviously,
think straight.
they don't know if that had something to do with it, but I don't know. It might have.
Yeah.
It might have.
I'm pretty sure it did.
I mean, he really did. He had some...
he knew there was something wrong with him.
He did. There were some warning signs prior to it. You know, like a few years prior. Like, he would say some weird shit or, like, act weird or whatever. And he had, like, some shit from his childhood and whatnot. So it's kind of like... It's hard to say, but I do think that was probably, like, a contributing factor for sure.
I guarantee you, if that tumor wasn't there, that shit wouldn't have happened.
Probably not.
All right.
Probably not.
That might have been like a contributing factor, but that was probably the contributing factor. That was probably the one that actually made it happen.
Yeah.
Because you got something wrong with your fucking brain. Yeah, I could have swore he was kind of having hallucinations, though.
I don't think it was hallucinations.
I thought those letters were kind of fucking discombobulated. Didn't have anything to do with what was really happening.
No, they weren't.
All right.
The sad
I might
thing...
have him confused with somebody else.
Yeah, I think you might. But because the thing about the letters is that no, they're coherent. The saddest thing about them is that he really, really seemed to know that there was something the matter with him, and he couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah.
But that came across in the letters, that he's like, I don't know, like, why I'm thinking these things. I don't know. You know what I mean? He would say things like that.
Yeah,
so he knew
we are thinking of the same guy.
He knew something was the matter with him.
Right.
I don't think he was, like, hallucinating or anything, and he didn't, like, think his mom was going to kill him or nothing like that. But it's kind of, like, obviously it's way sadder
didn't he kill his mom?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But not for the reason that you think.
All right.
Well, at least according to what he said. He killed his wife, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Victor said, my principal said people shot back at Whitman from the ground. Yeah, they did. A lot of people did.
Out there. Yeah.
They did. Well, because the cops, it took them a little while to get up there because he had, like, blocked all the stairs off, and he was, like, he had, like, 7 firearms, and he had, like, taken up a whole bunch of supplies, so he was gonna, like, hang out for a while. You know what I mean?
What was his last stand?
Yeah, pretty much. It's just, like, it's so bizarre. It's bizarre because what happened that day, and then, like, reading the letters that he left, it almost doesn't track. It almost doesn't seem like the same person.
Yeah.
Because he seemed very aware that what he was doing was, like, really bad and, like, really wrong, but he was just, like, gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
I remember somebody narrating what he was writing, and it's not coherent from the point of view of a sane person, you know what I mean, doing it for a motive. The motive was all fucked up. He didn't know what he was talking about. It was kind of like he was delusional.
Yeah, but like I said, he seemed aware of that, but it was, like, really, like, fucking him up.
Yeah, well, that's the way head injuries are when you have stuff like that. They're looking through reality through a very distorted prism. They think they're right about something, but then they know something's wrong with that. It's just, you know what I mean? It's not a moral problem. It's an organic problem with how the brain processes things. Yeah. You know what I mean? No, I understand. I remember hearing it going, yeah, he's got fucking brain problems. You know? Yeah. I mean, shit, I have fucking multiple head injuries. I kind of know how it is, but not to that extent. You know? Yeah. But, and usually, like, the most dangerous time for head injuries is, like, that first 2 years. So I guarantee you that thing had been growing in there for a long time.
They said it was about the size of a pecan.
That's pretty big.
That's big for a brain tumor. Yeah.
So it was growing in there, putting pressure on his head and fucking shit up in there. And who knows what the biochemistry looked like, you know. He probably had all kinds of weird antibodies and reactions and shit going on inside the brain trying to fight that thing off. That's mind altering. Yeah. You know what I mean? Imagine like LSD, but worse. You know what I mean? More realistic. It's like that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, so, you know, he wasn't sane. I don't really blame the guy.
No. I mean, yeah, it's like... I know, that's kind of like a weird thing to say, but it's like, I really do think in this case, it was probably like 95% biological. So like you said, it was almost kind of like, and I'm not
like a natural disaster.
Yeah, or like an act of God almost, if you want to call it that, because it's kind of like, I mean, I'm sure that doesn't make the victims' families feel any better because you're just like walking around the campus or delivering newspapers or whatever you're doing and some motherfucker shoots you.
That's not the way the life is, though.
But...
You know what I mean? Life isn't about who's right and wrong and casting blame and shit. I mean, you can do that if you want to feel high and mighty, but then they got women who get postpartum depression and drown all 3 babies in the damn tub. All right? It doesn't make people feel better that fucking, well, she had this postpartum depression, but they don't go to prison. A lot of times. You know what I mean? That's a known thing.
Yeah.
Well, you could put a fucking brain tumor in a guy's brain. It's about like that.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
like I said, so Magenta Pigeon says, do you guys believe it was genetic or his own doing? I think it was largely,
That tumor.
probably largely that tumor.
Yeah.
I mean, he did have, like I said, he did have some warning signs even from his childhood that a lot of other mass shooters, mass murderer type people have. But I don't think, if he hadn't had that tumor, I probably 95% sure that he would not have done what he did.
Depends on how big that tumor is and where its location is.
Yeah.
And a lot of other factors that happens. Like, for instance, she just said that he had a lot of stuff in common with shooters, other mass shooters. There's millions of dudes like that, and they don't actually do it.
Well, yeah, I know. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Millions and millions. There are millions of dudes that have a lot of the traits of a serial sex offender or a serial killer, and they'll never commit a crime, but they have those same traits, you know. But they don't actually ever do it, you know. So trying to piece together forensic stuff, you know, as well, you know, he was one of these and that. You get down to the organic fucking. You get down to the organic situation, and the biggest fucking clue to this whole thing is that damn brain tumor. Guarantee you, if that brain tumor wasn't there, that shit wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah.
very, very likely that it wouldn't have. I don't think he would have done what he did. You know, like I said, not excusing it. It's not cool or anything like that. But it's just kind of like, I definitely think this was more like a tragedy.
Yeah. Some people say, well, it's easy access to guns. Shit, that motherfucker would be the kind of guy, if you take the guns away, next thing you know, he's running people over with trucks. And then they actually have a better kill ratio with those trucks recently. A truck is those fully automatic trucks that fucking in the right place at the right time, going down the right sidewalk will get a lot more than guns. I mean, they got dudes that just go down a subway and just wait for a train, go by and push people into the damn way of the train. It's another one that's going on right now. If you're fucking a lunatic and you want to kill some people, there's all kinds of ways. You'll figure it out. And they do.
Yeah, Oracle said he also had a history of being physically abused by his dad. Yeah, he did. I have to wonder if there was an old injury that got exacerbated and triggered the tumor growth. Yeah, that could be possible. But yeah, like I said, it's kind of hard to say because it really does seem like reading his letters is really sad because, like I said, he really did seem to know that something was wrong. He really did he seemed like he was trying to get help, but I mean, I'm not saying nobody helped him. Like, he did go to like psychiatrists and stuff because he was like complaining about, you know, these intense headaches and all these weird thoughts that he was having. But I just think maybe nobody took it entirely seriously, or they didn't
Didn't x-ray his head.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They didn't really look into it with, you know, as much as they should have, unfortunately. Yeah. And, you know, a lot of people ended up dying because of that. But again, hindsight is 20/20.
A lot of these guys that have that type of fucking brain problems and head injuries and stuff can be very high functioning. They can pass a lot of fucking tests and exams. They know exactly what's going on, but they just kind of can get kind of warped, you know, and go down a path of thinking that they can't come back from, you know. Fucking after my fucking head injury, I would fucking fight at the drop of a hat. But I was also extremely fucking romantic. I was getting fucking lots of girlfriends and shit. Because you don't have a filter.
Yeah.
You see a beautiful woman, you just approach her. And you got all kinds of confidence, you know. It works. You could be a sweetheart and shit. And then some dude says something sideways, and next thing you know, you're down on the ground fighting him and shit. Fucking they're trying to lock you up. You know. It lapses, though.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had an ongoing tumor that's growing in there. You know, it never gets better. It just gets worse and worse. I can imagine it.
Yeah.
Especially if that was in a bad spot. Like up near the frontal lobes where your rational processes
rational
are.
and inhibition.
And where your inhibitions are. Yeah, fucking right.
Yeah, not a good situation. Not a
Yeah.
good situation all around.
Yeah, that's why the Punisher, his secret power is this fucking head injury. That's why he's got his damn fucking skull fucking X-ray on the front of his armor, because you can go into the rage, and the same kind of rage that if these dudes on fucking angel dust or PCP running through streams of fucking 9mm rounds and just pure adrenaline. So, yeah, there's something to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, your brain,
Yeah.
that's kind of an important organ.
Yeah.
That's kind of like your whole personality. So, something gets fucked up in there.
Well, the mind can become fucking like totally fucking just totally jacked up and immune to pain, and you can keep your blood pressure way high even though you've lost a lot of blood. You don't get tired. Superhuman chimpanzee style strength. Eventually it catches up with you though. It's like PCP, like angel dust. You know,
Yeah.
they're doing that same kind of thing.
Yep. Eating
Yeah.
eating people's faces.
Eating
you
people's
know.
faces.
Although we don't know what that dude
Yeah.
was on. Maybe
Yeah.
that dude just wanted to eat somebody's face. I don't really know.
You see Daredevil season 2 when the Punisher shows up. John Bernthal, I think is his name. John Bernthal.
Bernthal, yeah.
Bernthal, yeah. His portrayal of a fucking TBI, traumatic brain injury, fucking veteran. That's spot on. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. He did his research.
Well, I mean, you know, because
Yeah, he
like
said
most
he
of you
wanted-
guys know, like Tom had a
Yeah.
head injury also.
Yeah. Back in 94.
On 94. yeah,
Back in
94,
1994. And you're like that for a couple years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, it's really, really interesting, but it's also like kind of scary.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like, you know, it would just take one accident or like one,
Yeah.
I fell and like hit my head on the side of the bathtub,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden you're like a totally different person. But it has happened.
What's worse is multiple head injuries. When there's several of them over a course of time, like
Yeah.
on like a professional football player, they can get even worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did. Didn't we do like something? I think we talked about that case because we watched that Netflix documentary about that dude that was like a football player. And,
Yeah.
And he ended up killing his wife and shit
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I think one of them was a football player, the other one was a wrestler. And those
Yeah.
guys also take steroids, which keeps the swelling down, so they could have a head injury and not know it because it never really swelled up that bad. You know?
Chris Benoit, that's what
Chris
I was thinking
Benoit,
of, yeah.
right. So what happened to him was also steroids. The steroids prevented him from knowing that he had a serious head injury. 'Cause That's how they treat a head injury. But you
Yeah.
don't go out and get other head injuries on top of that one.
Oh boy, let's go
Yeah,
get
I'm
another head
fine.
injury.
Hit me in the head. Hit me in the head with that chair.
Oh my god.
And that dude fucking eventually just blew up.
I mean, I'll
Yeah.
try to keep my brain,
Right.
you know, pretty much intact. I don't really want to get hit in the head with a.
They erased that dude from wrestling history, which I feel sorry for him because that dude could not control his actions. His job was to be hit in the head over and over again with damn metal chairs.
But I
You
mean,
know, and that wasn't-
in this day and age, they should know that that's not a fucking great idea.
Well, it wasn't this day and age. That
Well,
was
I know,
fucking
but
back
I'm
in the
saying.
was it 80s, I think, late 80s, early
Yeah.
90s, and that wasn't him. That did, you know. That,
Yeah, DJ Maniac
was
said
somebody
they
else.
said his brain looked like an 85-year-old Alzheimer's
Yeah.
patient at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
that wasn't him, man.
She
That-
has just multiple head
Right.
injuries. That's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, you would think that would be common sense.
Those
just-
dudes kind of didn't have common sense.
Clearly.
They came from nothing, and they were making a shit ton of money, and they were big superstars, and they were fucking taking
Yeah,
all these
hit me with
drugs
that clown
and,
hammer.
Yeah, keep hitting me. Yeah, you know, they were having fun.
It's
and,
fine.
Yeah, and
I'm sure there will be no
Right.
terrible side effects of this whatsoever. This will not affect anyone in my family. You know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It seems like I said, your brain, that's kind of the most important thing in your body, kind of. So, you know.
We're getting off topic, but in that era, those guys just did not have the knowledge. It was all pre-internet, so people couldn't compare notes. You couldn't have access to doctors.
Yeah.
You couldn't find out what multiple head injuries would do, what steroids would do to you, fucking what all that shit would do to you fucking over time, and or condensed into a small area of time. You know what I mean? They didn't really know. They were kind of the pioneers of that shit. And no, you not like you get yourself killed. You could kill other people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's just you, I don't think anybody would really give that much of a shit.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know,
But that wrestler guy, I don't fucking blame him. That's another fucking natural disaster. That wasn't him. That was those head injuries that did that. He didn't mean that.
Mr. Roboto says, Tom, if a head injury caused the problem, a head injury can solve the problem.
That's true.
And then I was going to say,
true.
just like in the cartoons and the DJ Maniacs.
Yeah.
Because remember, like in the cartoons, and I feel like in a lot of old sitcoms,
Right.
like there was always one plot line where somebody would hit their head and get amnesia and they would forget everything. And the solution for that was always you had to hit them on the head again and then their memory would magically return.
Yeah.
Which is not how it works, in case you didn't know. But yeah, I just feel like that was a trope in like so many, not just cartoons. I feel like that was a trope in like a lot of like comedy shows and stuff like that. So, all right. So let's talk about Charles Whitman. Let's talk about his childhood. So he's born in 1941 in Lake Worth, Florida. He's a Florida man, you guys. Sorry. Lake Worth, Florida is actually kind of far from here. It's about almost 3 hours. It's like way down near South Florida, like near Fort Lauderdale. So he was like the oldest. He had 2 younger brothers. Now his mom's name was Margaret, and his dad's name was also Charles Adolphus, or they called him CA. Now, just like I kind of feel like this was kind of, I don't know, you want to say if it was like endemic to the era, but there was a lot of domestic violence going on in this marriage. The dad, CA, would beat up on Margaret a lot. He had his own business. I believe it was plumbing. He was a plumbing contractor or something like that. And he was kind of like one of those dudes. He's very, very authoritarian. He's very much, everybody has to do everything completely perfectly all the time or I'm going to beat you. So he was like very much into like when his sons were growing up, he was just like you have to like do everything right. Like you have to be like super high achieving. And if you're not, I'm just going to like beat the shit out of you until you straighten up. He was that type of dude. And like I said, I feel like there was a lot of those types of dudes at that time period. That seems like a pretty widespread. So he wasn't, real great. Like he used to beat the wife up as well. Emotional abuse, physical abuse, all that kind of stuff. Now, when William was a kid, he was actually very intelligent. They gave him an IQ test when he was 6 years old, and he had a IQ of 139. He was also, they said as a kid, he was actually very well behaved. He was like really, really quiet, very polite. He was always, just kind of always very high achieving, all that kind of thing. And he basically, I think like he learned to play the piano. He just did all that. He was like, just a normal, like all around kid. And he was like really, really intelligent. And it just seemed like a lot of his teachers also noted like how smart he was. Now, his dad, CA, he collected guns also. And like I said, he taught all of the boys to shoot and maintain their weapons. And they went hunting together all the time. And at this point, even when Charles was a kid, they said he was actually he was an expert marksman, like from the time that he was a child. So, like I said, just because we were making the joke about Full Metal Jacket, where he was saying it's like where did Charles Whitman learn to shoot in the Marines? But he actually was a good marksman before that. His dad taught him, and he just seemed to have a natural proclivity for it, I guess.
It's like shooting the hoops.
Yeah.
When you get good with it, you understand it, fucking you can get good.
Yeah.
We grew up doing that.
His dad even said about him, this was a quote from his dad, said, Charlie could plug the eye out of a squirrel by the time he was 16.
Okay, yeah.
So he was,
I learned at 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, he started learning when he was like really little too. Yeah. But like I said, he had 2 younger brothers.
I learned on a Remington Nylon 66. I don't know, you guys might remember what that is. It was a Remington 22 long rifle, semi-auto rifle, tubular magazine in the butt. You could put, I think, 15 or 16 in there. It was fun. Had a little white diamond on it. Every kid had that, and it was like a BB gun. It felt like it was made out of plastic, kind of like an M16.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you could get them for like $40, $30 in the 70s. They were just everywhere.
I remember those. I think
buy them at Sears.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember those. I remember like my cousins or something having those.
I eventually could snap shoot. Me and a guy named Todd Graves ended up being an Army champion shooter. I went to the same range that his dad owned, and he was a fucking master trick shot for the U.S. Army. Todd Graves, you can look him up. He was a few years older than me, but we standing out there at the range. I'd have that nylon 66. We'd throw fucking bottle caps up in the air and try to snap shoot the fucking bottle caps out of the air with fucking 22s. The trick is in the throw. If you're consistently throwing in the same spot, you're throwing it in front of the muzzle. Eventually you could hit, 50 out of 60 throws, and then you try to tighten it up. It's called snap shooting. Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
I was laughing because David June said we were talking about amnesia. Gilligan is known for getting amnesia due to a coconut. Yeah, I remember that episode. And then DJ Maniac said, and the professor could make a radio out of a coconut, but he couldn't patch a fucking hole in a boat. That's kind of taken down the whole premise of the show right there, that he just couldn't,
Gilligan's Island was an excuse to see fucking those dudes chase Ginger and Marianne around the island. Come on, that's what it was. You had two very different hotties and fucking boat. Everybody was going to see who was going to hit. At least that's what I thought it was about, even from a young kid.
Well, that's kind of the only thing people remember from it nowadays. That and like the professor like building crazy shit, but not being able to fix the boat. Yeah, that's pretty common. All right, so Charles joined the Boy Scouts when he was 11. And he actually became, at that time, what was the youngest Eagle Scout. I think he was only a little over 12 years old when he made Eagle Scout. And as I said, he also, by the time he was 12, was like a really, really good piano player. He was a pianist. And he started doing like a newspaper route, like a lot of kids did at that time. Now, he goes to high school in West Palm Beach. Like I said, this is South Florida. At the school, he's like, his teachers like recognized he was like really, really smart. He was actually like fairly popular, just kind of a regular guy. And he actually ended up saving up a bunch of money from his newspaper route and actually bought a Harley Davidson. And that's what he used to do the newspaper route. He's going around on his hog, I guess. So after he graduated from high school in 1959, he actually joined the Marines without telling his dad. So he said, or according to, I guess he had talked to somebody else in their family, like a relative or something, and had said that this is why I joined the Marines and didn't tell my dad about it. Because apparently about a month before he joined the Marines, his dad had beaten the shit out of him and thrown him into the swimming pool. Because I guess Charles had come home drunk and his dad was mad about it. So he beat the shit out of him and threw him in the pool. And Charles was like, fuck this, I'm out of here. So he went and joined the Marines. He went on an 18-month tour of duty. And he went to Guantanamo Bay. At this point, his dad still didn't know about it. His dad actually didn't find out about it until he was going to Paris Island, which, like I said, that's, again, Full Metal Jacket. We're going back to that again. That's where they were. Well, not really. That's not where they shot it, but that's where they were supposed to be. At this point, his dad found out about it and calls up, like, the government and says, hey, can you make my son, like, not be in the Marines now? But it's like, you know what I mean? It's like he was already, like, 18 at that point, so there's nothing that his dad could do about it. But his dad tried to, like, get him out. So I don't know if he wanted to, like, wail on him some more, I guess. I don't know. It's fucked up. So, during this 18-month service, which is 1959-1960, he actually got a sharpshooter's badge. This is, like, so fucked up, like, considering what happened later on. But, yeah, he got a sharpshooter's badge. And he also got the Marine Corps Expeditionary Medal. So, one of his specialties, again, this is fucked up, knowing what happened later, was that he was really super good at shooting rapidly over long distances and shooting at moving targets. Those were his, like, specialties, I guess. So now at this point, he applied for a scholarship, like the Navy and Marine Corps scholarship, because he wanted to finish college out, and he wanted to be a commissioned officer. Now, when he took the test, he got like really, really high scores. And so the selection committee said, you need to go into, they sent him to this prep school in Maryland. And then he ended up taking this class, like math, physics, stuff like that. And then he got approved to transfer to Austin to the University of Texas, which, like I said, that's where the shooting ended up happening. Spoiler alert. He was going to study mechanical engineering. So he goes to the University of Texas at Austin in September of 1961, and he goes into the mechanical engineering program. Now, when he first gets there, he's really not doing all that well. Like, he was kind of like a shitty student at first. But he had, like I said, he seemed like a normal dude. He had like a lot of like a regular social life. He had like a lot of hobbies. He liked to go scuba diving. He did karate. He went hunting. However, he was also a real big gambler. And that was something that would get him in trouble later on. So not too long after he enrolled at the University of Texas, him and two of his buddies were out hunting, and they were poaching. They actually poached a deer. They brought the deer back to Charles's dorm, and they were like dressing the deer like in the shower of the room, and I'm just kind of like, I can't even imagine.
Oh, that makes sense.
How'd they even get it up the fucking stairs and stuff like that? No, I know, but I'm just saying, I was just like, everybody must have been like, what the fuck? I mean, it's Texas. Maybe they didn't really care.
Yeah, that's no big deal.
But yeah, so since they were poaching, I guess it was out of season or whatever.
That's the deal. Yeah.
So somebody saw them and like reported them.
Right. Poaching.
Yeah, and
serious shit.
Yeah, so he actually got fined. He got arrested and fined. He got fined $100, which today it'd be about $900.
Yeah, it's still lenient back then.
Yeah.
Mississippi was tough on poaching.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're gonna do jail time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, so he got in trouble for doing that. But like I said, in hindsight, not really that big a deal. Now, he was kind of known, like I said, he was pretty social, and he was kind of like a practical joker type dude. But even years before the incident, which he would come to be known for, some friends of his actually did say that he would say some weird shit sometimes. Like, in 1962, a friend of his said that while they were, like, hanging out together, Charles, like, looked up at the tower that he would eventually, like, shoot all his people from, and basically said, hey, somebody could stand up there and hold an army off, like, before they could get to you.
Yep.
So he was, like, maybe even thinking about it, like, that long before it happened.
I disagree. That's not what's happening. He noticed that was a good defensive position, or an offensive position. You could shoot it down. He was already military at that time, right?
Yeah.
He just saw that and go, man, that's an impregnable fucking position right there. Later on, when he went fucking crazy, he said, where's a good impregnable position? And he remembered. That's what happened. He's not pre-planning it. He's just doing what a soldier would do.
Sorry, I'm laughing at DJ Maniac. Stop being vulgar. It's pronounced pianoist instead of pianist. Because every time you say pianist, somebody thinks you're saying penis. But that's okay. I actually did say penis that time.
No, he had military training. He just noticed that was a good position.
Well, I guess in hindsight, it sounded like a creepy statement.
No,
and his friend was like, "Oh man, that was fucked up that he was saying that like in 4 years before that shit happened." Like he had noticed it.
You just kind of do that thing when you have kind of a military background. You just kind of see that shit instinctively, without even really thinking about it.
Yeah,
because it's kind of beaten into you at such an early age. He just mentioned it to that guy. Boy, you got up there, man. They couldn't get you out of there. And then later,
and it turned out he was right about that.
Yeah, later turned out when he went nuts, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to that place. Remember that place? Yeah, I'm gonna go there." Yeah, that's what he's doing.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
This whole story just makes me so sad. Like I was just like reading it today, and I was like watching the old like news shit from 1966. I'm like, man, this is bumming me out.
Yeah.
So much.
See, I see some of these fucking crazy motherfuckers going on today, because there's a lot of shit brewing here in the United States, and the past few decades, the United States has been in a couple fucking bullshit fucking forever wars. One in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. And because it wasn't really a real war, it was more kind of like a law enforcement mission, they changed all that training to close combat type stuff. Body armor, room clearing, armored personnel carriers. They're kind of doing what SWAT teams or police would do. And because of that, you have all these weird fucking, I don't know if you want to call them protesters or militia or fucking whatever, civil unrest going on. They're emulating what they've seen on television or on YouTube of all this combat footage in Iraq and in Afghanistan. They're wearing all that damn gear and that weaponry, and they're trying to adopt all these tactics that are kind of leaning towards close combat. But if you come from the old army, which was the fucking apocalypse army, World War III, the last thing you ever want is fucking close combat. All right, it's got the highest casualty rates. It's the least effective. What you really want is far ambush, and that's what Whitman's doing here. You would call this far ambush / sniping. Round for round, man for man. That's far more effective. It's just funny how certain things go in and out of style. So, Whitman's kind of using the combat styles that he was trained with in the Marines. And that was what was in style then. He came from a fucking World War III based army also, or military, the Marines at that time. And he's just doing what's best in his mind, tactically. It's just funny how it changes the way these mass shootings look, you know. Now you got these jackholes just running into up on a crowd of people and just shooting them up, and maybe get 3 or 4 of them. Then he gets killed. Whitman was up there for a long time, though.
Well, hour and a half.
That was a long time for a mass shooting, and that's because of the tactics that he was using.
And he wounded a lot of people. He wounded 31, and he ended up killing 16.
Right. I just laugh at this shit. These dudes talking about Civil War and crap. They don't have any idea what they're talking about. No idea. If there's going to be some kind of civil war, it's not going to be the tactics I'm seeing them use. They're going to get fucking killed. They're going to lay them out. You know what I mean? People just see things on YouTube and see what other dudes did in some bullshit fucking war, and they think that's how it's done. There's going to be a rude awakening.
Well, nothing ever goes the way you think that goes when you're watching someone else do it.
Yeah, they're watching other people doing it on another circumstance in another country, thinking that that's how that shit's done. That's not how it's done.
And it's always different. It's way different, like watching
when you're doing it when somebody else is doing it.
And you doing it.
Yep.
Like I said, that's the story of my life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good. It's good that you can watch other people doing things. Like, you can learn things that way, but until you do it yourself, it's not.
Right.
It's not the same.
And, you know, well, people are indoctrinated by video games and all kinds of bullshit. War never changes. Like in the beginning of some of these video games. Oh, no, what the fuck are you talking about? I guess you're not reading any history books. No 2 wars have ever been the same. What do you mean war never changes? They've never been. Each one's never been the same. Each one of them is different. It's always just a situation. A lot of it has to do with the terrain and politics, because it's always political. Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
get another drink. You okay on yours?
Well, maybe fill it up a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, I might need some coffee before the end if we're actually going to go out before this, but we're only at an hour, so it's fine. All right, so early 1962, Charles Whitman, who was then 20 years old, he actually ended up meeting the young woman that would eventually become his wife. Her name was Kathleen Frances Lysander. Now, she was actually an education major. She was 18 years old. Now, I kind of feel like this is something that happened a lot back in this era, but I guess he'd kind of had girlfriends or whatever in high school, but nothing super serious. She was like his first serious girlfriend. They go out for 5 months and then they get engaged. So, like I said, nowadays people would be horrified, but like back then that was pretty common. So yeah, so they got engaged July 19th of 1962 and got married of August in that year. That's another thing that's crazy. Holy crap, that wasn't even like a month from when they announced their engagement to the wedding. Holy crap. Nowadays, I feel like people get engaged and then we're going to get married 2 years from now. I need a year and a half to plan a wedding. Holy crap. Okay, so it was different back then. So So they got married in a Catholic ceremony. Like I said, Charles Whitman's family was Catholic. I don't know if Kathleen's were as well. The shitty thing about this, considering what happened later, was that Kathleen's family thought he was the bee's knees, man. They just thought she had made such a good choice of man. You know, they said, oh, he was so handsome. He's like really smart. You know, he'd been in the military. He actually had aspirations, like doing something in the future. And so he seemed to check all the boxes, you know, just goes to show you can't ever tell. So now, as I mentioned, when he started going to the University of Texas on the, you know, the engineering thing that he was doing, he was on like a military, like a Navy Marine Corps scholarship. Now, to maintain the scholarship, you have to have good grades. Now, he did really shitty the first semester. The second and third semesters, he did a little bit better, but it still wasn't good enough. So the Marines like informed him, they're like, hey bro, we're not going to pay for your school anymore because you're not doing as well as you should be doing. So in February of 1963, he actually got ordered onto active duty, and he gets sent to North Carolina, Camp Lejeune, I guess is how you pronounce it. And he was going to spend the rest of his 5-year enlistment there instead of going to college because, like I said, he wasn't doing well enough to maintain the scholarship money. Now, I guess Charles was kind of mad about this, that he'd been, he wasn't necessarily kicked out of college. They just said, the Marines just said they weren't paying for it anymore because he wasn't keeping his grades up. Now, when he got sent to Camp Lejeune, though, he actually got promoted, like, to Lance Corporal. Now, he even, like, did some heroic shit right around this time. There was an incident, like there was an accident where there was another Marine and they were in a Jeep and it like rolled like into a ditch, and he actually like single-handedly like pulled the Jeep off the dude and like pulled the dude out, and actually like Charles had to be hospitalized for that. So, you know, he was doing some heroic shit, like I said. Now, he had a good reputation in the Marines. You know, they said he was an awesome dude. But, as I mentioned earlier, one of his hobbies, and this is bad, when one of your hobbies is gambling, he really, really seemed to get into a lot of debt, and it was kind of causing him a lot of problems. So, in November of 1963, he got court-martialed, mainly for gambling. Also, there were a couple other charges, usury, which I don't even know if they do that to anybody anymore. Like, would they court-martial you for usury nowadays? I don't know. Possession of a personal firearm on base. And also because either he had borrowed $30 from another Marine or another Marine had borrowed $30 from him, and they got into like this big fight about it. So that was another thing that was like added to the list. I guess the other one borrowed them from him because he wanted interest, and they got into a fight about it. So he got court-martialed. He got sentenced to 30 days confinement, 90 days of hard labor, and he got demoted back from Lance Corporal to private. And like I said, he wasn't going to college anymore either because he wasn't keeping his grades up enough to sustain the scholarship. Now, during this time, this is about 1963, when he was in the process of being court-martialed, he started writing in a diary. Now, his diary was called The Daily Record of C.J. Whitman. And some of it's pretty mundane shit. He would just write about what he was doing in the Marines. He would write about, you know, his wife, and he would write about his family and stuff like that. But he also wrote a lot of shit about how mad he was at the Marines for not paying for his scholarship anymore, for court-martialing him, you know, for various other things. Now, the interesting thing, though, is that he wrote quite a lot about his wife, but most of it, like, as far as I know, like, all of it was, like, very, very positive. Like, he was just always like, she's the most awesome person ever. I miss her so much, and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. So he never, like, seemed to, I don't think I ever saw anything where he wrote anything, like, derogatory about her, or that he hated her or resented her or anything like that. It was mostly, you know, the anger seemed to be against the Marine Corps, against, you know, the kind of the bigger I guess, governmental or societal
the
type of
system fucked him over.
Right. It was more of that kind
I wanted
of
to
thing.
say something about. I wanted to address something. Midwest Outlaw 420 is saying that he was mentioning how I was saying that there aren't many mass shootings like Whitman. All right, ones where they're kind of doing a far ambush type sniping, with the exception of that Las Vegas mass shooting.
Didn't that DC sniper do that?
DC
That was how many years
I don't
ago
remember
was
which
that?
one the DC sniper was.
What
Anyway,
was that? 2009? I can't remember now.
It's funny you say that, Midwest Outlaw, because if you look at that Las Vegas situation, there's no way that was just a fucking lone gunner mass shooting right there. That's got the fingerprints of a fucking foreign intelligence operation all over it. That was from another country. Like, just, he had too many damn fighting positions up there, and he had whole fucking crates of the same fucking AR-15 over and over again, as if he was waiting for the rest of the team to show up. He had fucking cameras and all kinds of security. No, he was waiting for a team of guys to show up to help him do that. And when they didn't show, because the cops were on to him, the cops caught him early. The mission got aborted. The team didn't show, and he initiated fire. And then went down fighting. He wasn't alone, and that was something a foreign country paid for. What? That's just not the work of one man.
Camp Guy said, instead of a fake pregnancy appliance, they should make all prospective teen mothers take care of a real 3-year-old for a day or two.
Yeah.
I always kind of felt like, I mean, when I was growing up, you know, and I don't know if they still do this nowadays, but they would do that thing where you had to, like, take care of an egg for, like, 2 weeks or whatever. And it's like, if it got broken, like, you'd fail. And so you had to, like, pretend like it was your kid. They were trying to, like, teach you, you know, responsibility. It's like to look after something like that.
Geriatric punk fucking called out Saudis. I was thinking the same thing. Go ahead, Jenny.
But yeah, so I don't know if they do that anymore, but I definitely do think, I don't know, maybe they should have a class where you have to hang out with like a bunch of children. I never really like wanted children or wanted to have children young because, one, I have 3 younger siblings who are lovely. They actually weren't brats or anything, but I also have like a shit ton of cousins who are all younger. And my parents ran a daycare for a very large portion of my childhood. So I was like pretty familiar with being around children all the time. And so I was like pretty adamant that it wasn't for me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it was something that I grew up around. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. But, you know, so I knew what was going on. But all right. So like I said, he also seemed to be really resentful toward his father, which, like I said, not surprising because his father was kind of an abusive a-hole and, you know, had beat the crap out of him and beat the crap out of his mom and his brothers and everything like that. So he kind of said some shit about him as well. Now, December 1964, Charles gets honorably discharged from the Marines and goes back to the University of Texas. And at this point, you know, he doesn't have a scholarship anymore, obviously, and he goes into the architectural engineering program. But he also had to get a job to support his family. Now, he worked as a bill collector, a bank teller, a traffic surveyor, like those types of jobs. He also he was a scout leader. That was a volunteer job. Now, his wife also worked. She was a biology teacher, actually, at Linear High School. So, you know, they were kind of having the regular, you know, mid-60s, middle-class type of lifestyle. Now, at this stage, Charles Whitman apparently admitted to his friends that on a couple of occasions that he had actually hit his wife. And this caused him a great deal of anguish because he knew that he was becoming like his father, and that was kind of like his worst nightmare.
Bet you that was that tumor growing in there.
It might have been.
Yep.
It might have been. Yeah. So because this was only a couple years, like a year or two prior.
He's losing the ability to keep his cool. Mm-hmm. He's losing his fucking his inhibitions.
Yeah.
And he's getting more aggressive and mad. And a frontal head injury will fucking make you angry. Fly off the handle.
Yeah.
That's what's happening there. And then he's blaming himself because he doesn't... At least when I had when I had my head injury, I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I had fucking, you know what I mean, fucking guys at Walter Reed going, this is what's going to happen to you, man. You're going to be like this and this
Yeah,
and
you
that.
got, like, warned ahead of time.
Right, you're warned ahead of time, yeah.
But he didn't have that.
He didn't have all that, so he's blaming himself. And I bet you his personality over those last few years started to be built around the symptoms of that damn tumor.
It probably did.
So he kind of got twisted around that, not knowing that was an alien force happening in there. I can imagine it.
He began to suspect it later.
Right.
Because he really did. I mean, he was a very intelligent man, so he really did seem aware that something was wrong. That
Your perceptions get skewed, though.
Right. That that the thoughts that he was having were. Yeah. I don't think that he said anything. Oh, they were coming from like an alien like intelligence, but he knew that they weren't normal. That it was
from outside.
That it was something from not that he wouldn't have been thinking otherwise. Yeah. So he really did seem aware of that. And even though he did beat up on his wife, he would always be like, really, he's like, I really don't want to be like this. You know, this is what my dad was like, and I didn't want to be like my dad. And so he got like really despondent because he felt like he was turning into his father and like he couldn't control it because he hated his father.
It was just that tumor getting bigger.
Yeah. It's like really shitty because they said even like in his journal and stuff, he was talking about, you know, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to be like the best husband I can be. I'm going to be this and that and the other. And it's like really sad because it seemed like after a time he couldn't like really control it. So May of 1966, Margaret, who was his mom, she actually finally decided to divorce CA, the abusive dad. Now, Charles was like really excited about this, and he actually drove all the way to Florida to help her out. So he's like, would you move to Austin, like be near us? And so he moves there. He actually even called the cops. Like he wanted the cops like outside the house, like while his mom was getting all her shit out of the house. So like in case his dad came back, there wouldn't be like a big fucking scene. So he was aware enough to be like, okay, I'm going to help my mom get out of the situation after all this time. So they did that. Now, so the mom moves to Austin, and the youngest brother, whose name was John, also moved to Austin. So they moved like closer to Charles, the mom and the youngest brother. The middle brother actually stayed in Florida and worked for the dad, CA, like in his plumbing business. Now, at this point, Margaret, who was Charles's mom, she gets a job in a cafeteria. She gets her own place. And her and Charles remain very close. They talk to each other all the time. Also have a little bit, I don't know if I'd call it a stalker situation, but the dad, CA, is calling up Margaret all the time, like trying to get her to come back. So like calling her like constantly, calling Charles constantly, saying, hey, tell your mom to come back to me. I'm so lost without her, blah, 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 all of that kind of shit. So there was all that kind of situation going on. So obviously this is not a fun time for anyone involved. And probably not surprisingly, Charles starts taking amphetamines during this time period. And also it was during this time period that he started having very, very intense headaches, which, like I said, which they found out later what that was. Now, again, so we're in 1966 now. So the day before the famous shootings, Charles goes to a hardware store. He buys some binoculars and a big knife. Then he goes to a 7-Eleven and buys some Spam, your favorite. He picks up his wife. She was a teacher, but this was summertime. So she had a summer job, like working as a phone operator. I think it was for Bell. And so he picks her up from work. He goes and has lunch with his mom, which was close to the college, like University of Texas. Then, this is July 31st, 1966, like I said, the day before the shootings. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Charles and his wife, Kathy, they go by and they visit some friends of theirs. They leave their friend's apartment at about 5:50 p.m. Kathy goes to work. She works from 6 to 10 in the summertime. Now, he drops her off at work, presumably. 45 minutes later, they think, he started typing a suicide note. Now, part of this suicide note says, now I'm not going to read all of them because he did write a lot, but this is a portion of one of the first suicide note that he wrote, they think. He says, I do not quite understand what it is that compels me to type this letter. Perhaps, and this is before he had done anything, perhaps it is to leave some vague reason for the actions I have recently performed. I do not really understand myself these days. I'm supposed to be an average, reasonable, and intelligent young man. However, lately, I cannot recall when it started, I've been a victim of many unusual and irrational thoughts. These thoughts constantly recur, and it requires a tremendous mental effort to concentrate on useful and progressive tasks.
Yeah, okay, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's telling you right there.
Yeah. Well, he knows something's the matter. He knows something's the matter.
It's ideation. The same thought going over and over in your head. That's also from fucking TBI. I get it sometimes. Where just like the same phrase will go over. But it's usually just some random snippet of a conversation from years ago.
Yeah.
That's what he's going through.
Yeah.
Just that his shit's getting worse and worse and worse,
Yep.
and it's getting bigger, and it's fucking his brain up.
It's terrible.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
what I'm
like
saying.
I said, I feel bad for, obviously I feel bad for all the victims because they didn't, they were just innocent people walking around.
But this guy's kind of innocent, too.
But he didn't, he couldn't help it.
Yeah. It's not him. It's not him that's doing it.
Yeah, it's like
You know
some
what I mean?
shit in his fucking brain.
Right.
Which is scary.
Yeah.
Because that can happen to anybody.
Yep.
Which is horrifying. But,
I've seen it happen to other people.
Yeah.
Like when I was living in Brazil, our maid was a little chick named Sita, and she had a brain tumor, and she slowly just kind of went crazy. But we couldn't help her. Over there it cost too much money. We didn't have the money to help her. She ended up dying. And you know what it started out with? When she would iron our clothes, because she did all the laundry too. When she ironed the clothes, normally she'd put one crease down the front and back of the pant leg, right? We kept finding with 2 creases. Where she would be a perfect 2 creases. Weird, you know what I mean? One crease next to the other.
Which, like I said, it's weird, but it's nothing that you'd just be like, huh.
That's what started.
Yeah.
Started it. And a couple months later, she started fucking cussing at us. In between stuff. Under her breath and shit. Like, wow, she's being crazy. You know what I mean? And then she glitched out on my mom, and then I can't remember what she did. My mom fucking took her somewhere. She knew something was wrong. And then she came back with a note from the doctor saying she had a brain tumor. That was some weird shit, but we couldn't help her.
The more I read about this case and the more I hear about shit like that, the more I'm freaking out because
and she was not even 30.
Well, my uncle died of a brain tumor when he was 32.
Remember that girl we used to party at with fucking pretty ass blonde? One that was going out a little short motherfucker. Short.
Yeah.
She had a brain tumor and just died.
And she was what, 29?
29. You'd never know that she had a brain tumor.
That.
She was totally logical though. It got her all at once.
Yeah, that seemed to happen very, very quickly.
It happened in a couple of weeks.
Really weird. It can't happen though, because like I said, many years ago, my uncle died of a brain tumor at 32. I don't think he acted super weird before the end. I never heard anything about that, but he was so young.
Yeah.
And it's just fucking crazy. Yeah, Esther said my uncle died of a brain tumor at 45. I know, and it's fucking sucks, man. And there's nothing you can do, but it's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Well, most of them are inoperable.
Yeah, because
it's in a weird place.
It's most of your brain is important. It's not we can just scoop this part out and it's not gonna have an effect. Holy crap! I was watching I started watching on Amazon Prime. They have that series. It's based on Lore, the podcast, and they had one on there. One episode I was watching that was kind of all about lobotomies, and they were talking about transorbital lobotomies, where they just would stick the thing in your eye socket and then kind of scramble your brain a little bit, and it was supposed to cure depression and all these other kind of things, and it's just talking about all the after effects of all that because obviously the dude wasn't even really a surgeon. He wasn't qualified or anything. He just had the idea, hey, I'm gonna stick this thing in people's eye sockets, and he was a doctor, I think, but I don't think he was a qualified surgeon. And it's you just kind of stick it up in there, just be yeah, that's probably fine, and go like that. And it's that's not gonna be good for anybody.
Geriatric Punk said that his fucking brother died of a fucking brain tumor at 7. Took him about 6 months.
That's what I mean. It's it's and I know it's scary, but nature is indifferent.
Yeah.
Nature is indifferent. It doesn't care about you.
Yeah. Well,
you
people
know.
are buying into the corporate narrative of that. You're born, you fucking live a perfect life, you get a job, and fucking you live out, you get a white house with a white picket fence and the
Which
dog.
some people do get that.
Most people don't.
Most people don't, though. Most people don't, though. Most
Other
people.
shit happens.
And it sucks because it's like sometimes it's like some people just like work their ass off their whole life and never get anywhere. It's like, and some people just have like life shit on them at every opportunity that, you know, shit they can't help. Yeah. And it's just kind of like, man, what the fuck are you going to do?
Well, in other countries, there's no upward mobility at all. You're just born. You're born in the gutter. You fucking live in the gutter and die in the gutter. That's another one. But here's the thing: you don't want to get. It's just like this is what Schopenhauer's going to say. Don't get wound up in the sufferings of the world. They're going to be there no matter if you know about them or not. There's all kinds of sufferings out there you're not even aware of. All right, and you know you don't feel guilty for not knowing because you don't know. All right, again, just be thankful for what you have.
And like if you can help somebody, then help them. But it's like you can't save everybody. You're just one person.
Nature has a way, and nature's way is that there's a lot of us. You know, some of us die, but it doesn't matter. Other ones continue on.
I know.
Eventually, you all die anyway.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I like to think, and I don't want to be one of those motherfuckers that's just kind of like, oh, I don't give a shit because it's just like, oh, millions of people die every day.
Well,
because I don't want to be one of those people.
But you can't be all emo.
But you can't dwell on it either. You can't dwell on it either. And I'm definitely on the side of like dwelling on it because I'm like, oh man.
Don't dwell on it because you got to look at it this way.
I can't do anything about it. If you were
a scientist looking into a big old fucking glass vial of gnats, where fucking millions of them are born and die over a period of about a year, to you it's just gnats coming and going. All right. But to those gnats, there's their whole lives. All right. But from your point of view, they just come and go.
Well, I think about that sometimes because I think about.
But
sometimes I think about that, like when I'm walking on the path or something, and like I'll see like a dead squirrel, or something.
It's all part of the system.
And I think to myself like how shitty that is, and I'm just kind of like, oh well, most people wouldn't care. I'm like, well, that squirrel probably cared, and I'm like, maybe, you know what I mean? It's I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to also look at it this way. You're not even aware of all the people that were born, lived, and died in Rome. Or in ancient Persia, and over the fucking
but I do think about
hundreds
that
of thousands.
Sometimes.
Well, guess what?
How many people?
1,000 years from now, you will be one of them.
I know.
And just long forgotten. It won't even fucking matter.
Yeah, but I've made peace with that shit.
Yeah.
I don't care about that.
Right.
I care about. I'm kind of interested in like people that lived and died that nobody like remembers. Like I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit if anybody remembers me or not. I don't give a shit about that.
We won't be remembered.
No, I don't.
Not forever.
Like I said, I don't give a shit about that.
We would be lucky to be remembered for like 30 years, 40 years, 50 years after your death.
I don't know why I don't give a shit about that. I just don't. I just don't.
The universe doesn't care either.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, so don't worry about it.
I've made peace with that fact. But honestly, I'm kind of interested in people who like a long time ago that people may have forgotten about. I'm more interested in that than I am about me being remembered.
I don't
like
care
1,000 years from now.
I don't care about it anymore. I had out-of-body experiences and near-death experiences. You just become one with the Force. You go into a fucking parallel another dimension, and life continues, but you continue on in another form. I think you're kind of recycled, or you go back to the fucking cosmic consciousness. You become one with the Force, and you never come back. Either way, I was under the impression that once you go into the cosmic consciousness, you never come back. You just become part of it.
I'm gonna be
like a drop of water returning to the ocean.
I'm gonna be reincarnated as Pookie.
Yeah. And that when you're on that side of reality, you're outside the space-time continuum. So you don't care about the past, the present, or the future too much. That's a singularity that's happening away from you. So you don't feel like you lost anything. You're gaining. So I don't worry about it. Nothing to worry about.
No, I don't worry about that. Well, and like what Xanada said, the thought of being dead isn't scary. Yeah, I agree. It's not scary to me.
You're not really dead.
For me, it's the thought of dying in agony. Yeah, that would suck a lot. That would suck a lot.
That would go away, though.
I don't even, you know what, though? I don't even care about, because I know some people are like really scared of like, oh, I'm going to die alone or this or that. For some reason, that doesn't bother me. That doesn't scare me. I'm not really scared of dying. I don't really want to like know that I'm dying. Like I said, I don't. when I think about like ways to die, it's like I would really rather not like be in a plane that goes plummeting to the earth and I'm just kind of like, and I know that I'm gonna die for like a few seconds. That would really blow. But I mean, it would be over quickly. But I still would rather not have that experience.
We already did a show on the Mandela effect.
It was a long time
ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, other dimensions are annoying most of the time. Sure. But yeah, I don't know. Just I don't know. Like the thought of death doesn't really alarm me all that much. Like I said, I don't really want to like be in pain for a long time. I don't want to like but I'm not bothered about dying, or I'm not bothered about being alone or anything like that. I don't know. I'm just not bothered by it. I'm not bothered about not being remembered. I just honestly, I kind of feel like I'm more interested in like people like from thousands of years. I find that interesting. I don't know if they would care, but I find it interesting. Like, hey, here's this person that lived all this time ago, and like you can, it's sometimes when archaeologists, like if they come across some house or something that's underground, it's like, oh, we found some average person's house and here's all their stuff, and like I think that's really neat because I'm like, wow, you're like almost like bringing that person back from the dead a little bit, because it's like nobody remembered that person and now everybody does. So I think that's kind of cool, but I don't particularly care if anybody remembers me or not. I don't know. Is that bad? I'm just kind of like, I don't know. It just doesn't bother me all that much. Now that I'm thinking about it doesn't bother me all that much. So another interesting thing that he said in the same letter, if you guys remember what I just said, about the letter that he wrote. Another interesting thing that he said was that, and he wrote this before he did anything, okay? He said that after he was dead, he wanted there, to be an autopsy performed on his remains because he thought that there was something the matter with him. And he's like, I'd really like to know what's going on in there. So can you please do an autopsy on my remains after I do what I'm going to do? So basically he said, hey, can you like fucking x-ray my head? Because he was talking about like he had like really bad headaches. So he knew something was the matter. In this letter, he also said that he had decided that he was going to kill his wife and his mom. Not because he hated them. But as far as his mom was concerned, he said in the letter, I don't think that she ever enjoyed life as she is entitled to. And
yeah, he's tripping.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. And he's just kind of like, and for his wife, all he said was like, she's just the best person ever. She's the most wonderful wife ever. He said, but what I'm going to do, I want to spare them the embarrassment. I don't want them to suffer anymore because he thought the world was like the worst.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want them to suffer, and I don't want them to be associated with me after I'm gone and be embarrassed and suffer because of me.
He's fucking tripping.
So, which I'm going to say, like, I get that he had a brain tumor, okay? But I'm just going to say, because I know that this is something that, like, a lot of mass shooters have, and they don't have a brain tumor, so they don't have a fucking excuse. They kind of, like, they'll take a bunch of people out, and we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
They take a bunch of people out and then take yourself out. I'm like, pro tip, how about you just take yourself out and not, like, take all these other people out with you who didn't have shit to do with any of your fucking problems.
I've already explained
that. Would be really nice.
I explained that fucking couple years back.
Well, I know you explained it, but I'm just saying...
They can't think that way.
Well, clearly.
They can't think that way. First of all, dude's got a brain tumor. He can't think clearly. But he's kind of thinking along the lines of those dudes that, I've lost my job. I'm going to lose the house. I'm going to lose everything. I have to kill my family to save them the shame of my failure.
Yeah, that seems a very common, like, with dudes, like, dude mass killers, that seems like, I'm just not like, no, it's fine. It's fine. You just kill yourself and it'll just be over here.
Yeah, that motherfucker, in his mind, it's almost kind of a Japanese thinking. I lost my job. I must kill myself. But, but they're like, I failed my family. I can't let them know that I failed. And I have to save them the shame of fucking me being a failure. And, then he kills the family. And then when it comes time to turn the guns on himself, he's like, I can't do it. Oh, well, I'm just going to go off and fucking make a new house. Yeah. Remember that motherfucker?
Didn't that French dude do that? Well, there's been more
no,
than
it was
one.
an American dude that did that.
Was that John List?
He I think it was back in the 70s or 60s that he did it. And then he eventually wandered away, got another job, fucking married, and fucking rebuilt a whole new family afterwards. And then they eventually caught him. I think
Can you
America's Most
imagine
Wanted and caught him.
Being married to somebody for 20 years or something like that. And then you find out that before you met them, they had slaughtered their entire family.
Yeah.
And then pussed out of killing themselves.
Yeah.
And it's just like, never mind. I'm just going to like start over. I'll find some younger, hotter wife. We'll have some kids.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
What the fuck, dude? Like I said, if you really feel like you're that much of a failure, just fucking blow your own head off. I'm just, it's like, don't take other people with you. Nobody wants to go with you. Okay,
He failed at
I'm
suicide.
telling you that right now.
Failure. He failed at suicide.
It's like, I'm not, you do that shit. I'm not ashamed of you or anything like that.
What was a trip is that he was able to. He did most of it through the 70s and the 80s. I think he got caught in the 90s, maybe late 90s.
It was like, I'm so.
He was able to make a whole new identity for himself and fucking
back
work
then you
and
could.
all that.
It was much easier.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Well, I'm one of those people, like I said, I would never, ever take anybody with me, because what the fuck? Why would you do that? I don't even want, and remember I said, how back in the Victorian area, remember, dudes that would, kill themselves, hey, I'm going to jump in front of a train?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, somebody has to clean up your splattered carcass, and it's like, and you've traumatized everybody on that train. Good job.
Yeah.
Don't fucking do that. Jesus
Yeah, it was
Christ.
funny. They were doing that shit in America.
So, self-absorbed.
Yeah,
it's so self-absorbed.
They wanted the public to see it. It's grandstanding.
Yeah, and no one cares about your shit, dude. It's just kind of go do it quietly
It's weird
somewhere.
because that was they were doing that stuff in eastern seaboard of the United States a lot of times, and in those days, fucking guns were cheap and plentiful. I mean, you could easily just shoot yourself, but see, that wasn't showy enough back then.
That's what I mean. They can't just do that.
No.
And spare everybody some fucking agony.
Right. No, it had to be some big fucking thing in public. Yeah.
And to that,
maybe, you're looking at it through modern eyes. It might have been kind of almost a way of protesting. 1800s sucked. Okay.
it did, but it sucked for everybody.
And, but it might have been mental illness as kind of way of acting out. Fuck this. Fuck up. Fuck y'all. Then
I get that. I get that mindset. I have that sometimes too, but it's I would never in a million years.
Right, just anger. Y'all bitches are assholes. Fuck it, here comes the train. Watch this. Fuck you bitches. I think it's like that.
Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's self-centeredness, it's self-absorption. No one really cares that much about you.
Well, standing up for yourself also can be seen as fucking self-centeredness. But
it's not really the same thing, though. That's not really the same thing.
You can't get yourself in the mind of a dude from that era. You'd have to know all the details.
Yeah, but dudes do it nowadays, too.
They're mad. They're very mad.
I get mad,
They're
too.
fucking pissed off.
I don't go around, killing, people that didn't have shit all to do with it.
Pissed off.
Look at me. Fuck that shit. I don't like attention whoring. And it just seems like attention whoring.
You're trying to project sanity onto other people. And that's where you get in trouble. You're trying to project sanity and you're trying to project fucking practicality and reasonability into other people. It's just not there for some people, Jenny. It's not in there.
Well, no, I know that.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so Esther is saying, I'm selfish. I attempted and failed trying to commit suicide. The abuse was too much for me. But the thing about it, I don't think suicide in itself is selfish at all. I don't think that's selfish at all. The only thing I think is selfish is trying to take innocent people with you. That's all. Yeah. Honestly, and I'm not saying that it's people should commit suicide, obviously, but I'm just saying that some people, the pain is too much, and I get that. I don't have any problem with, people just choosing to, hey, I'm going to take myself out. I don't have a problem with that at all. The only thing that I think is selfish if you think, oh, I'm going to take all these people out with me, because why the fuck would you do that? Why would you do that?
Some of it's not thinking. When I was living in Boston, the woman who lived across the hallway from me, her and her husband lived in there. They were both mental health professionals. She was taking care of all these outpatients and shit. And she told me one of them was a girl who she'd been through a bunch of fucking sexual abuse since she was little, And one day she was gonna kill herself, so she put a bunch of candles around the fucking bed and went in there with fucking 10 gallons of damn gasoline and poured it all over the bed, and said she got on the bed and poured it on herself, and then just threw one of the candles in the bed, set herself on fire, burned herself up. But she was in an apartment, burned fucking damn whole floor of the apartment down. A couple other people died of smoke inhalation. All right. Was she thinking of those other people? No. But chances are, in the mental state that she was in, she wasn't even really aware of those other people in the same way a normal person would. She was just so much into her own little world. She didn't realize that it would fucking put the other apartments in jeopardy. So, you just can't project fucking rational, reasonable thinking into fucking people, especially in people who are fucking crazy.
Well, yeah,
and there's
I know.
a lot of people who are just fucking crazy. And then a lot of the shit that shows up as memes on the internet, people fucking jumping on cars and doing all kinds of weird shit during these protests. A lot of them aren't mean. A lot of them are just fucking stupid. If you went in there, I imagine some of those people got a fucking IQ of 65. Definitely putting their life in danger. You know what I mean? I don't care what you believe in. You know what I mean? Fucking, you throw yourself under the wheels of a moving vehicle, you're going to get run over. Just, you point a gun at an armed man, he's going to shoot you.
Yeah, I was seeing something that Oracle wrote about, and this is actually a really good way of putting this. The quote was, "My mother is important because she is my mother." And that's kind of what I feel like the dudes that do this kind of stuff, that go on these rampages, and take their family members out and then take a bunch of, and then, although he didn't kill himself, he ended up getting shot by police. I don't know if he was going
He's not normal.
to kill himself. No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
She's saying, no, dude, your mother is a person who existed before you and she has a life without you. That's what I'm saying. It's just kind of like, I do kind of feel like they get so wrapped up.
Well, they're real myopic and
in their own
and shit.
Yeah, it's self-absorption is what it is. You get so wrapped up in your own stuff that everyone is just like
an extension of you.
An extension of you.
They're an accessory of your existence.
So, like I
know this person, so it's mine.
That's all I was saying. That's all I was saying. That he seemed self-aware enough to know that there is something wrong with me. Something is going on in my brain. It isn't right. And I'm going to do these things and it's going to be embarrassing for my family. So he was that self-aware. He wasn't completely out of it. But the fact that, I have to kill my mom and my wife now because because they'll be embarrassed and they're suffering. It's kind of like, yeah, but you didn't ask them, one. And two, they have an entire existence outside of you. They're not just, an extension of your psyche. That's another person. So I do kind of feel like they don't see other people. They're so self-absorbed that they don't see other people as actual full people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That really does seem like a lot of that going on. And I see that a lot, not just in this dude who had a brain tumor, like I said. I've seen it in other mass shooter type situations, like dudes that did this kind of thing.
Well, they're all
didn't
outliers.
have a brain tumor. That's what I mean.
If you're a mass shooter, you're an outlier.
Well, yeah.
You got fucking problems.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that that's a pretty common thing of seeing other people as extensions of you.
You're not going to be dealing with a real fucking self-actualized individual. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so he's...
With the exception of fucking guys that are on military fucking campaigns and shit. That's a very different situation.
Yeah. It's just kind of like, okay, so he's saying that he's gonna kill both of them. I think that he wrote this before he had done it, but he was actually planning to do that because he didn't want them to be embarrassed, quote unquote, by his actions. He didn't want them to suffer, blah, blah, blah. So August 1st, a little bit after midnight, he goes to his mom's apartment and stabs her to death while she's sleeping. He puts her on the bed very peacefully, covers her up with sheets. And then he left a handwritten note next to her body. And part of it said, "I have just taken my mother's life. I am very upset over having done it. However, I feel that if there is a heaven, she is definitely there now. I'm truly sorry. Let there be no doubt in your mind that I loved this woman with all my heart. So he just left her there like that, stabbed her in her sleep because he didn't want her to wake up. So then he goes back to his house. His wife was also sleeping, and he stabbed her in the heart 3 times while she was sleeping. So at least she probably didn't know what hit her with.
Oh, I'm sure she did.
It's fucking horrible.
It takes a while to die from that.
That's fucking horrible. So
These motherfuckers crazy.
yeah, I mean, like I said, why the fuck would you just? I don't know.
He's ending his world and all the people that he knew.
Yeah, but like I said, that is some monstrous self-absorption.
He doesn't think of it that way though. He's fucking crazy.
I don't know.
You're asking for rational, reasonable behavior out of a motherfucker that has a damn brain tumor.
But like I said,
And he might have not had a fucking great disposition to begin with, you know. So it's just a mixture.
Well, he had some issues, like even like before that, you know.
Yep.
Like he had been like abused horribly by his dad.
How many of these shows have we done already on this show? You know, motherfuckers do crazy shit. You know, and he's just this particular dude. This particular dude had a damn brain tumor. He was the wrong man at the wrong time for a brain tumor, and this is what happened.
Yep.
But there's a lot of this kind of shit going on. It just doesn't manifest itself in this way.
Yeah. But yeah, so he stabs his wife while she's sleeping 3 times in the heart, covers her up with sheets, same as he did with his mom. Then he kind of wrote some more, like, of the note that he'd been typing, and then he had a pen, and on the side of the note, like in pen, he wrote, "Friends interrupted," and then he wrote the date, and then he said 3 a.m., both dead. Assuming that he meant his mother and his wife. Now, after that, he wrote, "I imagine it appears that I brutally killed both of my loved ones. I was only trying to do a quick, thorough job. If my life insurance policy is valid, please pay off my debts. Donate the rest anonymously to a mental health foundation. Maybe research can prevent further tragedies of this type. Give our dog to my in-laws. If you can find in yourselves to grant my last wish, cremate me after the autopsy." Because like I said, he wanted an autopsy because he knew something was the matter with him.
Yeah.
He definitely wanted an autopsy of like his brain. So then he, I guess they were renting the house they lived in. So he left another note that said, "Hey, here are these 2 rolls of camera film. Please develop these." And then he wrote like some notes to his 2 brothers as well. And then he wrote he wrote on the outside of the envelope that he put it in. It was called like "Thoughts for the Day." That's what he wrote on there. And then he put like a whole bunch of like other like notes in there. And then on the outside of the envelope, he wrote the date, which was August 1st, 1966. And then he wrote, "I never could quite make it. These thoughts are too much for me." So about 5:45 in the morning on August 1st, Charles calls his wife's work, which I said was Bell Systems. She was like a telephone operator there over the summer. And he told her boss that she was sick and wouldn't be coming to work that day. Obviously, because she was dead.
Would you guys go ahead and hit that like button, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
Hit the like. Gramthars says, rolls of films. Kids today don't know the struggle.
Right?
Remember that
you had
shit?
to like take it to the fucking... Well, and you didn't know how the pictures were going to come out until later. So you'd go on
Half of 'em be
vacation.
bad.
You go on vacation and you take a bunch of pictures and then you go to fucking Walgreens or the 1 hour photo or whatever and you get them back and you'd be like, fuck me. Like none of them, like only like one good one came out.
Prepper POV said, at least he didn't kill the dog. Yeah.
You know what? Shitty? I kind of thought that when I was like reading about this too.
Yeah. Speaking to you, Prepper, I just got one of those ocean fucking little ham radios, man. Fucking it's coming from China. Bitch cost me $200 fucking bucks. I'm gonna program that bitch for all these fucking cool channels that they got here in Florida. They can't cut my internet off. I'll have
You
that
spent
radio.
$200 on a fucking radio?
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
I wanted a fucking cool radio. Wanted a cool radio. That's my emergency. It's gonna be my emergency radio for storms and everything.
Granthars Hammer says, when I was in college in the late 1980s, I worked in a 1 hour photo lab. People would bring in nasty homemade porn all the time. Yeah. I imagine that it was probably like 90% porn. I mean, that's what I always thought, like at the 1 hour photo. I always kind of thought, every time I took my boring ass pictures in there, like, I always kind of thought they'd be like, it's just like vacation pictures. Lame.
Grandpa's on ham. All right, I got you. Call signs K-E or K-E-N-N-O-N. K-E-8-N-O-N. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So Charles called his wife's work and said she wasn't coming into work because she was sick. Also called his mom's work and told them the same thing. Obviously, they were not coming to work that day or ever again, which is horrible. Then he wrote a few last journal entries, which I don't really have any thing of those. But later on that morning when the sun came up, he went and rented a hand truck. He cashed $250 worth of bad checks at a bank. That's about $2,000 in today's money. Then he goes to a hardware store. At the hardware store, he bought a .30 caliber Universal M1 carbine, 2 additional ammunition magazines, 8 boxes of ammunition, and he told the cashier at the store that he was hunting wild hogs. After that, he goes to a gun shop, purchased 4 more carbine magazines, 6 additional boxes of ammunition, can of gun cleaning solvent. Then he goes to Sears. At Sears, he was going on a fucking buying spree.
I had one of those Universal carbines.
Yeah?
Yeah, I had one for a while. Yeah, it was a piece of shit.
Well, yeah.
It was a knockoff. Those were the fucking AR-15s of the 60s and of the 60s. Had a lot of little fucking 15-round magazines, 20-round magazines, 30-round magazines and stuff, and just little .30 caliber carbine rounds. They were fun to shoot, but just piece of shit. Springs wore out in them. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, yeah.
So then he goes to Sears, and he buys a Sears Model 60 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun. Then he goes back to his house. At his house, he packs his footlocker with a whole bunch of shit. More firearms, including a Remington 700 6mm bolt-action hunting rifle, .35 caliber pump rifle, M1 carbine that he had bought previously, 9mm Luger, Smith & Wesson M19 357 Magnum revolver, the shotgun he bought earlier, a couple other ones. The shotgun, he actually saw the barrel off and the buttstock. He had about 700 rounds of ammunition. Into this footlocker, he also packed some food, including the Spam that he had bought at 7-Eleven earlier, some coffee, some vitamins, some Dexedrine, Excedrin for his headaches, presumably, some earplugs, a bunch of big jugs of water, some matches, lighter fluid, some rope, binoculars, a machete, 3 knives, a transistor radio, toilet paper for some reason, a razor, and a bottle of deodorant.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he was planning on going up there for a while.
Well, that sounds crazy, but that's what you carry to the field.
Well, I know that, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that it's like...
Nah,
you
he
know.
just had some training.
Yeah.
He's gonna take toilet paper and some fucking, but the deodorant and the razor, that's something that your fucking NCOs want you to carry because they want your shit freshly fucking shorn all the time for your camouflage paint. It's funny that he went up there. He just took that up there because of habit. He didn't.
I kind of feel like, that was just like a bunch of shit. Well, and like I said, his rampage...
Yeah.
It was a long time, obviously, and he killed and wounded a lot of people,
Yeah.
but really it was only like an hour and a half.
He planned to be up there for a couple days.
I kind of feel like he
Yeah.
was like thinking he was going to stake it out up there, and
Yeah.
he was just going to like need all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why would you like taking snacks and shit like that? He takes like 7 different firearms, like fucking 700 rounds of ammunition. He's got like deodorant and toilet paper. Come on now. But yeah, so like you said, he wasn't really thinking straight. So he put some coveralls on over his clothes. Now he gets to the University of Texas at 11:25 a.m. Now he apparently had like a fake ID that it was like a research assistant identification. So he had one of those, and he got a parking permit. So he parks on the campus, and he had like a hand truck, so he was like wheeling all the Foot Locker toward the main building. So he goes into the main building, he pushes the button for the elevator, and the elevator is not working. Now, at this point, like, this woman that worked there named Vera Palmer came and said, oh, I can fix it. And she came over and kind of did something and, like, got the elevator working. And at this point, Charles says to her, "Thank you, ma'am. You don't know how happy that makes me." That's what he said to her, like, more than once. So he said that to her. So he takes the elevator up to the 27th floor, which was, I think the building was 28 floors. So he goes up to the 27th floor. He takes the dolly with the equipment on it, and he goes, like, he gets out the elevator. He goes up one flight of stairs. And then he goes to this hallway, and then there was, like, another flight of stairs that went to, like, these other rooms that were up there, and there was, like, the observation deck, which is where he ended up shooting from. Now, when he got up to this hallway, that was where he encountered his first victim, who ended up dying, Edna Townsley. She was a receptionist. She was 51 years old. So he goes up to her. He knocks her down with the rifle butt and then split open the back of her skull. Then taking the same, the butt of the rifle, like, busted her above the left eye. And then he dragged her body behind a sofa. Now, these two other people came in, named Cheryl Botts and Don Walden. They come into the reception area. They were coming off the observation deck. Now, at this point, like, Don, he sees Charles has all these guns and didn't think anything about it. He just said, "Oh, well, are you just going up to the observation deck? You're going to shoot pigeons or something?" And Charles is like, "Yeah, like, hey, how you doing?" And then the two of them went down in the elevator. Meanwhile, he has just killed a 51-year-old woman and, like, dragged her behind a couch. So, there's that. So at this point, the entrance from the stairway, he, like, blocked it. Like, he pushed a desk in front of it so, like, people couldn't come up there. So then at this point, there's a dude named MJ Gabor, his wife Mary Frances. They have two sons named Mike and Mark. Now, they actually were in town visiting MJ's sister. His name was Marguerite Lamport, and she had a husband named William Lamport. And they just happened to be here that day. So around 12:45, they're coming up the stairs from the 27th floor, and they find the desk that Charles Whitman had put into, like, across the entrance to the reception area, like, to keep people from coming in there. So Mike and Mark, like, kind of went around the desk, like, what the hell? Charles comes out and starts shooting at them. So, shot Mike in the shoulder and shot Mark in the head. And then he started shooting down the stairs, hitting Marguerite and Mary Frances. MJ and William, who were farther down the flight of stairs at that point, were actually not hit. They ran for help. Like, they ran away and went to get help. Charles Whitman then shot Edna, who he had hit her in the head with the rifle butt. He actually ended up shooting her in the head, and then he went up to the observation deck. Now, out of all of those people that he met, Mark, who was MJ Gabor and Mary Frances' son, one of their sons, was killed. He was the one that was shot in the head. Marguerite, who was MJ's sister, was also killed. Mike Gabor, who was the dad, he actually was injured. He couldn't finish his Air Force training. He had to leave because of the injuries. Mary Frances, his wife, was paralyzed from the neck down and left blind. So, there's that. Claire Wilson was the next victim. She was 18 years old, a student at the University of Texas. 11:48 a.m., Charles begins shooting from the observation deck. This is about 230 feet above the ground. Like I said, 27, 28 stories above the ground. It's like, it's actually quite tall if you see, like, pictures of it. So he just started randomly shooting people around the campus. And there was also, I guess, like, by the side of the campus, there was, like, a street, Guadalupe Street, known as the Drag. There was, like, a bunch of, like, kind of coffee shops and bookstores and that kind of shit. He was also shooting toward in that direction. So Claire Wilson, who was 18, was the first person that was shot from the tower. Now, her and a friend of hers, Thomas Ekman, they were leaving the student union. And then Claire Wilson, who was actually 8 months pregnant, was shot right in the belly. They believe that Charles Whitman was aiming for her very obviously pregnant stomach. So she was shot at 11:47 a.m. The baby in her stomach was killed.
Damn.
So, yeah, not fun. So Thomas Ekman went to help her and was shot in the chest and was killed instantly. There was
He's doing
another
this with the carbine, right?
Yeah, well, he had like a bunch of guns, but I
don't
think
know
that
which
was
one it
like
is.
mainly the one that they used, yeah. So there was this woman that was running by named Rita Star Pattern. She actually came by and laid next to the pregnant woman for an hour, like, you know, trying to keep her awake and like trying to keep her from. So there was a lot of people that really were kind of heroes this day, because even though there was still actively because this dude like was shooting for like an hour and a half. So they would actually come and like either drag people out of danger or try to help people or whatever, even though they were in danger of getting shot themselves. And indeed, some of them did. But like I said, some people were actually like, you know, very brave. So this woman, like I said, who didn't know her, this woman, Rita, came by and just like actually laid next to her for like an hour, kept her awake and like tried to keep her from passing out or whatever. Now, there was another guy that came by named James Love, and there was another guy named John Fox. And they were actually, when the shooting started, they were like behind like a barrier, but they came out while the shooting was still going on and helped carry Claire Wilson to safety, and also pulled Thomas Ekman's body out of the way. Now, Claire was, as I said, her baby was killed because Charles Whitman shot her right in the stomach. But she was in the hospital for 3 months, but she did ultimately survive. The next guy that was killed was Robert Boyer, who was 33. He was actually a mathematician. So he was like a professor. Now, he actually was just shot in the lower back, pretty much died immediately. There was another guy named Devereaux Maitland Huffman, who was 31. He was shot in the arm. And he actually, at that point, like, he just kind of fell to the ground and, like, pretended he was dead, which was probably, like, a pretty smart thing to do. Now, there was a woman that worked on campus named Charlotte Derashori, and she actually ran to their help, to help them. So, Charles was shooting at her, but she, like, ran to help them. And she ended up trying to help them, and then she kind of went behind this concrete flagpole and ended up not getting shot, luckily.
Hold on, I got a question.
What's that?
All right, who was it? Xanadu Sin. I didn't know 30 carbine had that kind of range. 30 carbine is a fucking weird-ass fucking caliber. I used to hand-load it because it was almost impossible to find during the time that I had it. You couldn't find it loaded. You had to make your own. It was a 30 caliber bullet weighing 110 grains that left the muzzle at about 1,900 feet per second. It was weird. It was the same length as a 38 special, but it was a lot narrower. It was 30 caliber instead, and it had a little automatic rim on the back of it instead of a revolver rim. It was a weird cartridge. I mean, shit, it would have been a lot more efficient just to put the thing in damn 30 Mauser or 7.62 Tokarev. Been a lot shorter. Long, skinny thing, which tend to make jams. It's just not a good shape. And it wasn't very tapered, which helped, and it wasn't really great at feeding. The carbine itself, the adjustable sights versions, you could regulate it out to about 300 meters. But by the time that round got down there wouldn't be much left of it. You know, a lot of the energy would probably be spent. Be like getting hit with a 380. It was made for up close, you know. 100 meters and closer. Mostly 50 meters. It was meant just to replace the 45 caliber pistol. That's what it was. In its day, I guess you would call it a PDW, personal defense weapon, like a crank or like a Czechoslovakian Scorpion. It's something better than a pistol. It's not a rifle. That was the concept. But after World War II, a lot of them hit the market, and you had a bunch of companies making reproductions of them and selling them because a lot of GIs were used to that, and they would sell. It wasn't ideal, but they had an aftermarket. It was kind of like the AR-15 of its time, because you could get a 30-round mag or 15-round mags. They had problems. You had to change those magazines out a lot. Magazine springs went bad. The action springs they weren't. There was a little small coil spring, long. It wore out. You had to keep replacing spring packages on them to keep them tip-top shape. It just wasn't really made that well. Fucking Eugene Stoner's AR-15 was being made, and nobody believed in that. It looked like a damn ray gun, as crazy as it looked. They never believed that shit would work. It went to Vietnam, it did pretty well. And then it ended up being, that's the one. So it was the thinking of the time, you know. In those days, I don't want to talk about it. In those days, the M14 would have been the go-to fucking weapon. But, you know, he saw that carbine, he knew what it was, so that's what he went with. But that's a weird choice from our point of view, but not so much.
Well, like I said, he had several others, but I feel like most people were shot with the
carbine. Yeah. Well, the other ones that he had, from what I remembered, if the movies were accurate, they were bolt-action 7.62 rifles. They were basically deer rifles, you know, with scopes.
I mean, he had a sawed-off shotgun. He had like a bunch of other shit too. Yeah. He had a Luger. He had like
those are pistols though.
Yeah, like I'm saying, yeah. But he had like a bunch of
for long arms. Firearms. I remember that he had some bolt guns too.
Beowulf 18 says they talk about this guy in the Full Metal Jacket film. Yeah, we mentioned that earlier, right. And I said that's actually a little bit erroneous because I know it was a joke, but like he did say that it's like, oh, he learned to shoot in like the Marines. I said he didn't technically because like his dad taught him to shoot when he was younger, so he was actually like a marksman before he went into the Marines. But
up in that tower, that carbine would have been not the weapon to go for. You'd want those bolt guns. And in most portrayals and reenactments that I've seen when he was up in that tower, he was using it. What looked like a 308 or a 7.62 was same thing. Deer rifle, you know, which that's what you'd use for sniping. That's what snipers would use. Remington Model 70s. Yeah. Or a Winchester 700. Glass bedded barrels. If it's all match accurized, it's done well, then you can reach out to 1,100 meters and hit a man-sized target reliably with good ammo, and with good optics if you know what you're doing. Really, people, you see all this fucking shit about these jack holes with these assault rifles fucking putting holes in people. That ain't shit. That's nothing. The right man with a bolt-action rifle in the right position is unstoppable. Snipers are fucking deadly. Especially if they're using them. And it's not the weapon, it's the tactics. Firing one shot and leaving and vanishing. Then he fires the next day and kills two and vanishes and leaves. Then the next day he kills two more and leaves. You never stay and fight. That's how it's done. But it only takes a certain kind of person to get that done. You know. In Kosovo, the snipers were working the population over, and they targeted children first. And women, because it put maximum terror on the enemy. The idea is terror and horror. It makes a population just want to stay at home and not go outside. And you could starve out an entire city doing that. 10 guys can do it. Okay, go ahead.
Well, don't give anyone any idea.
Well, it takes teamwork and skill.
So this is like kind of shitty, but I guess I can understand how this would happen.
Yeah. Because
you have a guy, a sniper, that's up on the 28th floor of a clock tower. And he's, like, just shooting at random people on the ground. So, at first, like, the first couple people, like, it's a big campus. So, no one really knew what was going on. They just kind of heard sounds. And some people thought, oh, there was, like, construction going on nearby. So, it's like they thought it was just from that. Or some people that even saw people, like, falling thought that it was just like maybe it was live theater, or maybe it was like an anti-war protest, because there was a lot of that shit going on too on college campuses at the time. So even like some people later that were like shot and wounded and were laying there, they said that like some people walking by were like, hey, get up, you know what I mean, because they thought it was fake, which, like I said, maybe you would at that point, but like I said, that's like kind of shitty. But so at this point, they kind of start bringing like ambulances, like armored cars, shit like that. So the next people to get shot, it was actually 3 people. It was David Matson, Roland Elke, and Tom Herman. They were all in their early 20s. They were all Peace Corps volunteers. And they were actually walking to lunch. And David Mattson, he got a bullet in the wrist, like it blew part of his wrist off. Roland Elke was hit in the arm by shrapnel, and then he got shot in the leg when he had gone to like hide, but then he came back out like to drag David Mattson back, to where he would be safe. And then there was another guy, like an older guy, Homer Kelly, who was 64. He was actually a shopkeeper in the area. He saw the 3 dudes get shot in front of him, and he came out of his shop and tried to drag them all in there, and he was shot in the leg. Well, all of them were injured, but all of them survived. Thomas, what?
Yes, Crussell played Whitman in the movie.
Yeah, we talked about that. We reviewed that movie, I think.
Yeah, somebody sent me a copy of the movie on Blu-ray. It's a great movie. It's made for TV.
Yeah, it was called, what was it called?
Something or other.
The Deadly Tower.
Deadly Tower.
The Deadly Tower.
You could
it's about this guy.
Probably get it for a couple bucks on Amazon. It's a good watch.
It is a good movie.
And it's a real young Crussell doing it, and it's a real straightforward edit. It's almost kind of like an action/disaster movie about this dude. And
it's pretty accurate, like to what happened that day.
Yeah, Crussell nails it. But not only that one, also the John Carpenter and Crussell television show about Elvis, the Elvis special. That one's good too.
Which doesn't have anything to do with mass murder.
Has nothing to do with that, but it's another Crussell television movie, and Carpenter directed it. It's about Elvis. That's also accurate and really, really good. A forgotten made-for-TV movie. You can get it on. You can stream it, or you can get it on DVD for a couple bucks. It's good.
Yeah.
What was that called? Elvis something or other?
It was just called Elvis.
Elvis, yeah.
I'm pretty sure. It was
with Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
It's worth seeing.
We have that as well. But yeah, so there was another guy named Thomas Ashton. Now he was actually going to have lunch with the first 3 guys, like the Peace Corps volunteers, and he was shot in the chest and died immediately. Next we have Nancy Harvey. And Ellen, who was a student, and Ellen Evgenides, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, who worked there at the college. They were actually, again, leaving together. They were going to lunch, and they started hearing shots. They went back inside, and then a guard, for whatever reason, said, no, it's fine. You can go back out again. So they both went back outside, like to whatever they were doing. And then it apparently wasn't safe because Nancy Harvey, who, like I said, was a student, she was 21, she got shot in the hip. And Ellen was then struck in the left leg by the same shot, like it ricocheted off and like hit her in the leg. Both of them survived. They were injured, however. Next up was Alec Hernandez, who was 17 years old. Now, he was actually delivering newspapers on his bike in the morning. So he wasn't a student or anything. He was just delivering newspapers in the neighborhood, and he got shot in the leg. Also, next, a girl named Karen Griffith, who was 17. She was a high school student. She was actually walking through the area and got shot in the shoulder and chest, and the bullet pierced her right lung. She lingered in the hospital for 7 days, but unfortunately died after that time. Thomas Carr, who was 24, was a student at the University of Texas. He was actually hit in the spine while coming to help Karen Griffith and died an hour later. At this point, there was a dude named Alan Crum who was 40 years old. He was a retired Air Force tail gunner, and he was actually managing one of the bookstores on campus. So he had actually seen Alec Hernandez, the kid that was delivering newspapers and got shot. He saw that happening, so he ran out, and he thought it was a fight at first. He didn't really know what was going on, but he came out and he found out the dude had been shot, and he started hearing shots. So he kind of took it upon himself to start directing traffic, like doing these other things, like trying to like get control of the situation. So he started doing that. Then he couldn't get back to his store because all kind of chaos was happening. So then he actually went to the tower where they had figured out that Charles Whitman was shooting from and said that he would help the police. Now, I think he ended up getting deputized because, like I said, he'd been in the Air Force and he was a tail gunner. So the cops were like, okay, fine, we need all the help we can get, I guess. So they kind of, he kind of started helping them out. So at this point, there's another student named David Gunby, who is 23. This is about 5 minutes before noon. He had left the library and then he'd forgotten a book, so he was going back to get it. And then a shot went through his upper left arm and went into his abdomen, severing his small intestine and killing him pretty much instantly. Then there was a couple, Brenda and Adrian Littlefield. They had only been married 9 days. They were actually coming out of the tower. Brenda got shot in the hip, and then her husband leaned over her like, look, what happened? And then he got shot in the back. At this point, an armored car, like I said, they were sending in ambulances and armored cars to try to bring out the injured people or whatever. So they came and got the two of them out of there. So David Gunby was killed, but the Littlefields were injured but survived. Interestingly, or not, I'm not sure. This is kind of fucked up. So David Gunby, who was actually, like I said, ended up dying. When they were doing surgery on him, because the bullet had gone into his abdomen, they found out that this is actually a guy. He didn't die at the time, but he died a long time later, and they kind of attributed to this. So it's so he gets shot in the abdomen, in his intestine, right? So then they're doing the surgery, and then they found out that he had only had one functioning kidney to start with. One of his kidneys was fucked up, which he didn't know. And the only kidney that had been working had been shot.
Yeah. Hold on one second.
What?
Saad asked, wasn't anybody shooting back? And people in the audience are saying, yeah, people were shooting back. Yeah, if you watch the movie, you can stream it. Deadly Tower, it's really good. Bystanders were hearing about it. People heard that it was going on. I think radio and television was telling everybody.
Yeah, and people went down there and
people were going down there with guns and shooting back up at him. Some of them were people just who happened to be there at the time. The thing is that most people weren't totally prepared. The civilians really weren't prepared for this, so they were shooting back with things like .38 special revolvers. All right, real common stuff that was around in the U.S. at that time. Things like pump-action shotguns. They just didn't have the range and the accuracy you needed to engage a guy up in a damn tower. You needed high-powered rifles.
I mean, you have to. He was 28 stories.
Yeah.
It's quite a tall building.
You needed a high-powered rifle, totally zeroed in with great ammunition and a really good marksman. And those are harder to find. It's going to take time for guys like that to arrive on the scene. And chances are, the first guys like that to arrive on the scene would be some kind of a police unit. And I don't think this was in the modern era of SWAT yet. I think SWAT teams actually were formed in response to situations like this, because I don't think it was an actual SWAT team that took this guy, or it was a prototype SWAT team.
No, it wasn't even. I think it was just a couple of random cops.
Right. You need a special weapons and tactics team, SWAT. You need a special response team for guys, because Whitman had training. He was crazy as fuck, but he had training. He knew that half the damn battle is finding a great fighting position, a position to fight from. So that right there, that's half of it. And then the other half of it was his weapons selection. He brought the right weapons.
What you doing, Bogey?
Regular policing isn't about that, So it was going to take specialists to take care of this guy. What's up?
I'm going to run a commercial because I'm going to run to the bathroom.
Okay. She's asking to go out.
Oh, no. Put her little thing on her. All right. Okay. So we're just going to do a commercial and then... Oh, you're leaving? Okay. Yeah, well, I can't run a commercial if you're leaving because you can't... Okay.
I will run the commercial. When you come back, I'll let the cat out.
Okay. Good idea.
All right.
I just... Because like I said, I like to do the shit for Adam, so I'm running the commercial. All right. So we'll be right back in just a moment because I have to go to the bathroom. All right.
In 2019, the first Strange Realities Conference took place in Nashville, Tennessee. The pandemic and turmoil the following year could not stop 2020's conference from thriving in cyberspace as a live streaming event. Now, for 2021, the third annual Strange Realities Conference will combine these worlds into a paranormal hybrid event, live in person in Nashville and streaming online. Join us in exploring just how truly strange our reality can be with an interdimensional lineup of speakers presenting unique and intellectual perspectives on magic, mysteries, and the paranormal.
Featuring Alan Greenfield, Dr. J. Michael Bennett, aka Dr. Future, Tim Banal, Soraya Ascaf, Dr. Stephen Finley, Aaron Gullius, Amy Pachula, Brent Rains, Chris Ernst, Heather Mosier, Michael Hughes, Jose Herrera, Joshua Cutchin, Kiki Dombrowski, Nathan Isaac, P.D. Newman, Steven Snyder, aka Recluse, David Metcalf, Timothy Renner, Steve Stockton, and Ren Collier. Tickets available at StrangeRealitiesConference.com.
It's gonna be amazing.
Okay, and I am back. I just had Pookie here in the pilot's in the co-pilot seat for a minute. I was petting her, but then she jumped down. Here comes Jenny. Let me go let Pookie out. She's going, come on.
Well, put her little clothes on.
Yeah, get.
She can't run around out there too long, because if we leave, I'm not leaving her outside, obviously. But yeah, so where was I? Yeah, so this is like fucked up. This is why I think at the time they said that he'd killed, like, officially, this is fucked up, but the 15 people, but actually they later revised it to 16 because David Gunby actually didn't die at the time, as I said, but because he'd been shot in the abdomen and they discovered that one of his kidneys, the one that hadn't been shot, was not functioning, and he wasn't aware of it. But the one that was shot was now fucked up, so he had to be on pretty much dialysis for decades. So he ended up dying in 2001 from complications of that. So his death was actually ruled a homicide like much later, because if he hadn't been shot, he probably would have been fine. So like I said, that's where the 16th victim is coming from, but he didn't die until 2001. So at this point, so there's another guy, and this is portrayed in the movie as well, because I remember this scene pretty clearly. This is around noon, when this is like in the thick of the shooting. There's a police officer named Ray Martinez. Now, he was off duty, but he ended up hearing about the attack on the news. He called the police station, and they said, go to the campus and direct traffic. And he gets there, like there was some other cops already doing that. So he just like went to the tower and said, okay, well, we're going to try and get in there and like get the dude. But he was surprised to find when he got there, there's basically only 2 or 3 other cops. And they were just like at the tower going, yeah, we need to like get up there and get that dude. So like I said, they didn't have like a SWAT team or anything like that. This was kind of this wasn't a situation. I mean, happily, this isn't a situation that happens all that often. And back then, probably even less often. So they weren't really prepared for this kind of shit. So they didn't really seem to know what to do. So Ray Martinez gets there, and he gets up to the 27th floor, and there's basically only 3 other cops there being like, yeah, we need to bust in here, but he's like going to shoot us. He's like, because he they were outgunned essentially. So at this point, there's another 18-year-old girl named Claudia Rutt, and she had a boyfriend named Paul Sontag. And they were walking around the campus. They bumped into their friend Carla Wheeler and then started hearing shots. So they jumped behind like a concrete barricade. Like I said, there was some construction going on the campus or near the campus. So they jumped behind this concrete, but for some reason, Paul Sontag stood up looking for something or anything. I don't know why. And then Charles Whitman shot him in the mouth, which killed him immediately. Claudia Rudd at this point tried to run to him, and then Carla, her friend, tried to, tell her not to do that. And while this was going on, Carla Wheeler got shot in the hand, and the same shot also struck Claudia Rutt in the chest. So Claudia was killed, Paul Sontag was killed, Carla Wheeler was wounded in that situation. The next one was Roy Schmidt, who was 29 years old. He was an electrician. Again, when he heard the shooting, he jumped behind his car. He was about 500 yards away from the tower. But the shooting went on for about 30 minutes, and then he thought that they were out of range, like that the shooter would not be able to reach him, so he stood up, and pretty much as soon as he stood up, he got shot in the abdomen. So he was actually, this is fucked up, but he was actually the one that was killed that was like the farthest from the tower. For the fatality farthest from the tower was Roy Schmidt. That was 500 yards. Billy Speed, 24. He was a police officer. Now, this is about 12:08 p.m. He was with another police officer and a few others. They were, again, hiding behind these concrete, this concrete barrier, like on the South Mall. Now, he actually got shot through a gap in the concrete. He got taken to the hospital, but unfortunately died at the hospital. Harry Walchuk, 38, who was a PhD student. He was actually leaving a magazine store on Guadalupe Street, which was, kind of right next to the campus, and he got shot in the chest and killed. Billy Snowden, 35. He was a basketball coach at the college. He thought he was out of range, but was just kind of like walking along. He got hit in the shoulder while standing in the doorway of a barber shop. He was actually the victim farthest from the tower, although happily he was not killed. He was just wounded. Sandra Wilson, who was 21, also a student. She was shot in the chest on Guadalupe Street, but survived. Abdul Kassab, 26, also a student. He was an exchange student from Iraq. His fiancée, Janet Paulos, they were both walking along near Guadalupe Street, were shot. Both were injured. Neither of them died. Lana Phillips, 21, also a student. She, again, thought she was out of range, but was shot in the shoulder, injured, but didn't die. Oscar Roy Vela, 21, also a student. Roy Vela was walking along with Irma Garcia, who was his girlfriend, and they got shot near the auditorium on campus, Hogg Auditorium. They were injured, but didn't die. Two other students, Jack Stevens and Jack Pennington, actually dragged them out of the way, dragged them to safety. Avelino Esparza, who was 26, was a carpenter. He got shot in the left arm near the shoulder, which shattered the bone. His brother and uncle dragged him to safety, and he survived. Robert Hurd, 36, who was a reporter. He was also a Marine. He was shot in the arm, but survived. John Allen, 18, a student. He was actually looking at the tower through a window of the student union when a bullet struck the window, and a second shot severed an artery in his right forearm. He was wounded, but survived. Morris Homan, a funeral director, which is fucked up, who was 30. He was actually helping get people out of the range of fire. So he was using his ambulance from his business to take victims to the hospital, and during the course of that activity was shot in the right leg on the corner of the thing, and he ended up laying there for pretty much a long time until somebody came in and got him, but he happily survived also. F.L. Foster and Robert Freed, they were wounded in the crossfire between Charles Whitman and people shooting from the ground, which, as I mentioned, some people who heard about it on the news ran there and started shooting at the guy up in the tower. So some people were actually injured in the crossfire. Della and Marina Martinez, who were visiting from Monterrey, Mexico, both wounded by bullet fragments, although they survived. Dolores Ortega, who was 30, was also a student. She got cut on the back of her head. They don't know if it was from a gunshot or from flying glass, from shrapnel type situation. And then the last victim was C.A. Stewart, was injured in the commotion. They don't think that he was shot, but there was all this other kind of shit going on and crazy shit. So, like I said, the cops, there wasn't a SWAT team. There wasn't any of that. Everybody, this unfolded over more than an hour and a half. So there was ample time for shit to come out on the news, people to show up and try to help out, try to contribute. But it really does seem like the police force, not, entirely of their fault, I guess, because this kind of shit didn't happen that often. They weren't really prepared for this type of situation.
We got into this kind of stuff in that that Hollywood shooting. Remember with the two bank robbers? Mm-hmm. The old school law enforcement brass, their top guys, along with the politicians of the era, were from another time. These are kind of World War II and pre-World War II people. Their idea of law enforcement was very different from what reality was. They thought that you could walk around with a damn club and a stick and a little 38 caliber revolver and be able to fucking keep people safe and fucking intimidate bad guys and take care of bad guys in a world where firearms like the Browning automatic rifle, the AR-15, AK-47s, and the Thompson submachine gun were around. And then the M3 grease gun. World War II changed fucking weapons forever. The technology fucking... The Overton window of what was acceptable for design and type of... Technology advanced. You had to update the police. And these are two examples that clearly underlined that police thinking was from another era. This one and the Hollywood shooting. You have to keep your police up to date. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all it is. They have to fucking be able to engage this kind of... They're not fucking patrolling Mayberry. These are urban environments. Weapons technology has advanced. And you can't control it. You can make an M3 grease gun in your fucking house. You can make a Luty submachine gun in your house. With shit that you can buy from a department store. You can make ammunition out of nail gun blanks. There's all kinds of weird shit you can do. The technology now, the 3D printing is unstoppable. They got guys in Europe with real strict gun controls that have the FGC, Fuck Gun Control 9, which is a 9mm submachine gun you can make on a 3D printer. It's only got a couple of metal parts, the springs and the barrel, but you can make it all 3D printed. It's just cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, I mean, once everybody has 3D printers,
cat's out of the bag.
It's going to be hard.
Eventually, they're going to be making weird 3D printers for proteins and shit like that. They'll be able to 3D print a goddamn kidney in a house.
I can make my own steak. Well,
and then
good luck getting that in there.
What happens if you just 3D print an entire human body?
And then bring it to life.
And then bring it to life or something. Yeah, you know, the fucking... What happens if you fucking can just like gene amplify or fucking gene edit out a fucking bioweapon at the house? The cat is out of the bag. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a while for the laws to catch up with that shit.
If I don't think they ever will.
Well, the thing about it is that always kind of happens. I mean, technology is always ahead of the law. The laws, moves very slowly. Because no one really knows entirely what all the implications of shit is going to be.
I went back and analyzed everything. The driving force of humanity is not government. It's technology. Governments don't free you. Technology frees you. In every case, the good shit that happened to human beings wasn't because government did anything. It was because technology advanced. Starting off with shit like the printing press. You know what I mean? The governments tend to want to stop these technologies. Because it takes power away from them. Yeah. Eventually you're just going to deal with people that don't need a state or a government. That they're real self-sufficient. Now, I don't think the government would want that. Because you have robber barons that have made entire fortunes on you buying shit from them. And if you ever get into a position where you don't need them, they're going to want to try to stop that. But you got to look at it this way. Whatever they're making money on now that they're pissed off about that you're not buying, that's not going to be there in a couple decades anyway. They used to have dudes that were worried about whether or not you were buying horseshoes or not. You don't buy horseshoes anymore. Making horseshoes used to be a whole fucking job. Technology changes even the fucking jobs. It changes all the robber barons. They can't stop it. Don't worry about it. Do what you want to do. Just don't get in trouble. Watch your own back.
Victor says, fuck kidneys, I want a T-Rex.
Make a fucking T-Rex. Make a T-Rex with a big-ass dick. And let it go. Let's just see what happens. You can tell I'm getting ready to go to the club.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to go. Let's go.
How can you get... Are you really that drunk?
No, I'm not that drunk.
Holy crap.
No, I'm not that drunk. I'm only on my second one. I mean, that's a double. But
I am too, but, it's all right.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's actually not really all that late. I'm just going to
We're getting towards the end of the show, though.
And we kind of did good. Yeah. I talked about all the victims. That's good.
Yeah.
So, like I said, the cops are not super prepared for this situation. Like I said, you can't really blame them. It hadn't really happened in this area to this extent.
Granted, this is Florida, man. Fucking everybody's got that shit here.
Well, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, where was I? So, yeah. So, the cops are kind of trying to get closer. It's like, it's kind of hard because he keeps... laying down covering fire is what he's doing from 20th floor, and you don't really know where he's gonna shoot next. So, but they had like a little like cadre of officers, and they started going toward the tower, like use like some underground maintenance tunnels and shit like that. And again, we mentioned this earlier, there were other police officers down there that were shooting at him, and also like some other civilians that were shooting at him. So they were kind of like trying to keep the police officers trying to keep them safe while they were doing their thing. So basically, they also had a sharpshooter, like a police sharpshooter, and he was in a plane, and he was kind of trying to go like, I think he was more trying to, I don't think he was trying to hit Whitman necessarily, but he was trying to like distract him, you know what I mean, like from shooting at the civilians. So there was that kind of shit going on too.
It's called engagement.
Yeah. So at this point, like there's 3 cops, or 2 cops and 1 deputized Air Force dude that they deputized, that just came there and wanted to help. So they go up to the 27th floor, and at this point they found Mike Gabor from earlier who had been shot. He survived ultimately, although he was pretty fucked up. They got him out of there, and then they go up to the observation deck. And so, like I said, he got deputized. So they go to the reception area, at which point they found Marguerite Lamport, who was dead, Mark Gabor, who was also dead, Mary Gabor, who was essentially, she was blinded and, she was basically, she can't walk anymore, and Mike Gabor. And Mike Gabor told them, hey, he's out there on the observation deck, so go out there and get him. So Ray Martinez gets out to the observation deck first. Like I said, they were actually the movie was like pretty accurate, because I feel like Ray Martinez was like a big character in the movie, and so that was like a pretty accurate that was a pretty accurate to what actually happened. So he gets out to the observation deck. He told Alan Crum, who was the guy, like I said, the Air Force tail gunner that they deputized. He's like, hey, you stay back there. So they go out to the observation deck. And at some point, Alan Crum, like, shot off his rifle, like, accidentally. So, they were probably like, why'd we deputize the dude? I don't know. So, by this point, it's about 1:24 in the afternoon. Charles Whitman is kind of, like, looking around for the next target. And then at this point, Ray Martinez and another cop, whose last name was Officer McCoy, they come around the corner, and then they see him. And then Martinez jumps out. He shoots at Whitman, but he missed with his revolver. And then McCoy jumps out while Ray Martinez was firing, saw Charles Whitman's head looking over, like, the kind of thing. And McCoy shot at him and hit Charles Whitman between the eyes with a bunch of pellets, killing him instantly. But just to make sure, got a double tap, he not only hit him in the head, he also kept shooting and, like, hit him in the left side. And then at this point, Ray Martinez took the other officer, Officer McCoy's shotgun, goes up to Charles Whitman's body, and basically shot him point blank with the shotgun. Like I said, double tap. They were making sure the motherfucker was dead. So they just basically just like shot him. So there's that. So the cops did actually finally get up there, and they shot him. Now, when they looked into, because like I said, when this was going on, obviously, it was like a big chaotic situation. But when the investigation began, they didn't really know that Charles Whitman had also killed his mom and his wife prior to his rampage. They found that out later, after all of this had gone down. Like, they went to the mom's house and they found her, and then they went to the wife's house and they found her. So there was that whole situation. Then as they looked into it farther, they noted that Charles Whitman had actually gone to, as I mentioned earlier, a bunch of different physicians on campus, and complaining of headaches, thinking something was wrong, irrational thoughts, things like that. So he was actually trying to get help for his condition. They had given him various medications. He had seen like 4 or 5 doctors starting in 1965, like late 1965. He went to a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist didn't give him a prescription, but he got from another doctor, gave him some Valium. So basically, he goes to this other psychiatrist named Heatley, Dr. Heatley, and I guess, like, in his suicide note, he actually talked about this doctor. He said that he talked to him for about 2 hours and had tried to tell him that he had felt overcome with violent impulses. And they seem to... I don't think that they necessarily took it as seriously as they probably should have. Like I said, it's... Hindsight's 2020. Nobody knew that he was going to do this shit, okay? But I do kind of feel like he did try to get help.
They should have x-rayed his damn
because
head.
he knew something was wrong with him. And he was very frustrated because I think he felt like they weren't really helping him, and he felt like he really needed help, and they weren't really doing anything about it.
Maybe he didn't have the money for an x-ray.
Maybe not, although it doesn't seem like he went to 4 or 5 different doctors.
So he had money.
So it doesn't really seem...
They should have x-rayed his goddamn head.
You would think, and he was kind of... And he did know something was wrong with his brain, because he even said in his suicide note, like, you know, autopsy my brain, like, after I die, because something's going on in there.
Yeah, he knew.
Right? So it's kind of like... It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the psychiatrist that he saw did note, and this is part of his notes, this massive muscular youth seemed to be oozing with hostility.
Yeah.
That something seemed to be happening to him, and that he didn't seem to be himself. That was like something that he just felt like he was having these feelings that were like alien. That's,
That's a symptom of some head injury.
Yeah. It says he readily admits having overwhelming periods of hostility with a very minimum of provocation.
Yeah.
Repeated inquiries attempting to analyze his exact experiences were not too successful, with the exception of his vivid reference to thinking about going up on the tower with a deer rifle and start shooting people.
Yeah.
So he did actually say ahead of time that he was thinking about doing that.
Right.
Like, less than a year before he actually did it. So basically, okay, so
and he's trying to help. He's trying to get help to get them to fucking prevent it.
Yeah,
ain't that some shit?
Which, like I said, that's what makes this like so fucking tragic all around, because it's like it's not only tragic because of all the people who were killed and wounded, but it's also tragic because he seemed to know something was the matter, and he tried to get help.
Didn't get help.
And it seemed like they didn't. You know, it seemed like
shit
people
about this dude, but that was actually. That takes a lot of will and, in a way, heroism to try to fucking go to them and say, something's not right, help me. I'm thinking about killing people. Go check out my head. And they didn't do it.
I mean, at least he did that.
Yeah.
Jeez. I mean, they didn't do it. I kind of feel like they didn't...
I didn't know about that part.
Yeah.
It wasn't on this dude. It wasn't him. It was that fucking tumor.
This is what bums me out so much about this case. It was just seems
they didn't take
like...
it seriously.
Yeah, well, I feel like you don't, because especially back then, it's like they weren't really versed. I mean, I feel like nowadays that would probably, if somebody came to you, like now they'd be like, oh, dude, okay, we'll do something. But back then, I feel like...
grasp that.
Yeah, I feel like it wasn't like a common occurrence. People didn't have like any context for it. So it's just kind of like, oh, he just feels like this, that, and the other. But they didn't do anything about it.
Right.
They didn't do anything about it. You know, and I can't entirely blame them. Like I said, they didn't have a lot of experience with this type of shit. Like I said, if you went to a psychiatrist nowadays and said that, they would, they'd be like, okay, we're gonna like pull this person out of, because they'd know.
Dude, it looked right into your head with a fucking MRI.
Because we've had a lot of experience with people doing this kind of shit.
Right.
So, but back then they didn't. So it's like, I feel like they didn't really, so it was just like a tragedy, like all around. Like everybody failed.
Yeah, I in my mind, I've heard this case before, but even back in the day, I remembered letting Whitman off the hook, that it wasn't him, that it was his fucking medical condition that did it. You know what I mean? That wasn't the real Whitman. That was a brain tumor that made him do that.
It's like super sad. It's sad.
So that's bad that he has to carry this around even in the afterlife. You know what I'm talking about? His name is soiled by that. But he went for help.
Yeah.
To tell them that there's something wrong with it.
I mean, like I said, that doesn't
Fucking,
make
yeah.
like the families of all the people that he killed and wounded feel any better.
No,
because
but-
like if my relatives, loved ones were killed like that, I wouldn't feel any
the
better.
hate shouldn't go on him though.
But yeah,
He tried to get help.
In a way, it's like I feel like almost no one is to blame in this
It was
situation.
like a
because
natural disaster.
Yeah, it just seemed like there was just so much shit that it's like nobody has like 20/20 foresight. It's like nobody knew that he was going to do this crazy shit.
No.
Nobody knew that. Nobody did that back then.
The system didn't understand it.
Like I said, I feel like nowadays, if somebody came to a psychiatrist and said that, and you didn't stop him, then because now everybody knows.
They would have given you a full fucking checkup.
Yeah, now everybody knows. Back then they didn't.
They'd have fucking either operated on you or kept you fucking under fucking Thorazine and fucking drug you up until you died from that hemorrhage. Because they can't operate on all of them. Some of them are just, sorry man, nothing we can do, you're going to die.
Yeah, so...
Because if we cut in there, we'd be cutting out most of your brain.
Yeah.
Fucking...
So that's the thing. Like, he had been prescribed medications. He had Dexedrine when he died. That was, like, in his footlocker. Now... Weirdly, like, they embalmed his body, like, immediately, but it's kind of like this. So they wanted to do toxicology, but so it was, like, delayed. So he ends up getting, because remember, like I said, and even his suicide note, please do an autopsy, because he thought something was the matter with him. So finally, the day after the shooting, they did an autopsy, and they did find a pecan-sized brain tumor, which we have referred to earlier, in his brain. Now, they're not entirely sure. Like, at the time, the neuropathologist who did the autopsy wasn't entirely sure if the brain tumor could be, if that was, like, the main thing that caused the actions. They said, well, there's really no way of knowing. But, as I said, like, later... neurologists or whatever, like, disputed those findings. It's like, seeing the size of the tumor, where it was located, that's probably, like, a big indicator of what was going on there.
Gramthars is in there he's in there trying to re-explain it to some of the other people. The government cannot keep lists on 350 million people. Those motherfuckers are too goddamn incompetent. No supercomputer can do it. They can put a damn laser beam on you and find out everything about you, but they can't watch everybody at once. It's just, you're not... Civilians and people who haven't worked for governments or never worked for companies that have contract for governments, they have a very distorted and unrealistic view of what the government is. The government's a bunch of damn offices filled with people that are just trying to work day to day.
Well, they're just doing jobs like everybody else is doing jobs.
And a lot of this shit is...
We fuck up sometimes.
Well, a lot of that shit is not even a real job. A lot of it's busy work. A lot of it is grifting and trying to get some taxpayer money. It's more like a gig than anything else. Even you go into some of these special operations units, there's fucking problems in the thinking there. Just, no. The larger an organization is, the less effective it is. That's why they subbed out all their important work to fucking civilian companies. Private militaries and private intelligence if there was a James Bond, he wouldn't be in the government. He wouldn't be a government employee. He would be a contractor. He'd be in one of these security companies. And, he would be a civilian doing that kind of stuff on a government contract. Or he'd be doing it for a drug cartel or something. And the drug cartel is actually owned by a fucking elected official in another country. There's a lot of that shit going on.
But yeah, so kind of what they thought about later, like I said, even though the first neuropathologist didn't necessarily think that brain tumor explained anything, but like later ones disputed those findings and were like, hey, maybe it was pushing against Charles Whitman's amygdala, which was like, that's kind of like your anxiety thing, your fight or flight kind of shit. So like I said, depending on the part of the brain that it was in, it could absolutely, change his personality. And he really did seem to be, sadly, aware of what was going on. So this is kind of like, I don't know, for some reason, this case bums me out maybe more than the other ones because we've talked about a lot of serial killers and shit like that, but I feel like a lot of serial killers, as much as maybe they had mental health issues, maybe, usually, they had problems with... Oh,
You didn't hear that fucking rain coming down?
yeah, I heard the rain.
I had to let
but-
Pookie in, and Pookie came running in with a lizard in her mouth.
Of course she
Took
did.
the lizard out, fucking threw the lizard back out. Yeah.
Man, she's always trying to, like, sneak.
Yeah.
She's always kind of like, what?
Lizard in her mouth. She's
have
like,
anything
look,
in my
look,
mouth.
look, 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 look. I said, man, give me that lizard. Fucking put the lizard out.
I brought
Lizard's
in
like, thanks,
I
bro.
brought in a
Fucking runs off.
playmate. I brought in a playmate. You can't, like, bring them in here, though, because, like,
Yeah.
they'll fucking die. But, yeah, so the sad thing about this, like I said, we do a lot of shows about serial killers. And as I said, you know, do serial killers have mental health issues? Indeed, a lot of them do. Do a lot of serial killers, did they have, like, horrible, horrible, shitty childhoods? Yes, a lot of them did. A lot of them had head injuries. A lot of them had things like that. So I do kind of... But, to a large extent, I feel like a lot of serial killers still have enough presence of mind, if you want to call it that, to still be able to make a choice. Yes, they have a compulsion. Yes, they have, you know, oh, I feel like I have to do this. Or, you know, an addiction, if you want to call it that. But they still have a choice where they can, like, not do that. I don't know if that's the case in this situation. I don't know. I hate to say... I don't want to say definitively one way or the other, but I do kind of feel like 95%. I do kind of feel like if this dude did not have a brain tumor, I don't think this would have happened. I just don't think this would have happened.
That's the thing that put him over. Like you said, a lot of these serial killers have bad fucking backgrounds and this and that and all these traits. But there's a lot of other dudes that have those traits too.
But yeah, like a lot of people
like
had terrible childhoods.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people did.
It's a culmination of all these bad traits, and then there's something like old what's his name would say, the X factor.
Yeah.
There's fucking something in there that some of them fucking spill over into becoming serial killers, and you just maybe it's genetics, just the personality, you know, the way.
But
the way
see, I think it has to be both things, and
Yeah.
I've mentioned this before. I really do think. I don't know if someone could be born that was just completely normal in every way, didn't have any mental health issues, didn't have any genetic issues, didn't have anything, and they just had a really, really shitty childhood, like abusive and everything, and then turned into a serial killer. I don't know if that's enough.
Yeah.
Because, like, look at all the people that had just, like, fucking horrific childhoods. And they turned out all right. Like, not all right. They're still fucked up, but they're not serial killers. Like,
Yeah.
some of them are, like, messed up, you know, mentally and have problems, but they don't, like, hurt other people. So I kind of feel like that's like, the majority. Yeah. So I think that it has to be, I think both factors have to be present for that to happen, because like I said, serial killers thankfully are very rare.
Yeah.
And I think you have to have both things. I don't think just one thing is going to do it, because like I said, even if you're born with a proclivity toward being like sociopathic or whatever, I don't even think that necessarily makes you a serial killer unless other factors are present. If you were born with sociopathic tendencies, but you grew up in a lovely, like, loving household, you had like a lot of loving friends and stuff like that, I think you might still turn out okay.
You'd still be a sociopath, though.
Well, you'd still be a sociopath, but you wouldn't kill people.
It's a spectrum. These are spectrum fucking disorders, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, everything is on a spectrum.
Right.
Nothing is one or the other. That's why it's so complicated, and that's why we haven't been able to figure it out. Like, that's why I don't even think, like, nature, nurture, that's not even a debate. It's like, it's a combination of both things, and you can't pry them apart.
And you also can't predict what people will do a lot of times. People have propensities to do things, but it's impossible to totally predict. Because if you start getting into situations, like what Gramthars said, if you start getting in a situation where you think you can predict it, motherfuckers will go out and try to pre-crime you, like fucking on damn Tom Cruise, where they're arresting you and convicting you of murders that you haven't committed yet. They just think you're going to do it.
Just because you thought about it.
Because you thought about it, they think you're going to do it. You know what I mean? Which you can't do that either, you know.
Well, yeah, because
a lot of the same guys that have that same profile never do kill.
Yeah, and like I said, you see it all the time, and that's why you can't just
Most of these dudes are harmless. That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like, that same personality type that makes a dude a serial killer, you're only seeing the ones that actually do it. There's a lot more of them that never actually
that's what I was just going to say. You're only seeing a very, very, very vanishingly small sample, like from a statistical standpoint.
I bet you that's 2% of them. Which means there's 98% of them don't ever kill anybody.
That don't ever kill anybody. Right. I mean, they might be shitty people in other ways.
Yeah, they're fantasizing about it.
But
maybe
I mean,
drawing pictures or something, but they never do it. Or they outgrow it. They're like that for a certain period, and then they outgrow it. Because even serial killers will outgrow it. Some of them.
Yeah. And sometimes, it just depends on, because, shit, man, I knew, like, some teenagers that would talk about, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing. But they never did it.
Right.
They talked about it. They would, like, fantasize about it. Like, who hasn't done that?
Yeah.
I feel like most people have done that kind of shit. You just, like, you know, I've done it. Yeah. Shit. You're in a fucking, somebody, like, annoys the shit out of you one day, and you're just kind of, like, in line behind somebody at the grocery store, and you're like, man, I could strangle this motherfucker right now. You know what I mean? Because they're, like, so fucking annoying. But it's like, you're not going to do it. And, like, I feel like 99% of people would not do it.
All right, so that's pretty much the end of the show. It was went by pretty quickly, I guess. It was a light day for super chats. If you guys want to send us any super chats, now's the time to do it before we go ahead and log off. You got anything else you want to talk about, Jenny?
I don't think so. I actually got to the end of the shit.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
like,
we had a pretty big crowd too.
Nadine says, "What about digging snuff films?"
No, they have dudes that are all into that, but then they don't do it themselves.
Yeah, I kind of feel like the audience for even like extreme shit, like snuff film. I'm not a snuff film fan, obviously. Like, I love horror films. I like watching fake shit.
Snuff film is a porn film where you kill somebody.
That's what I mean. It's like, I don't want to watch that for real.
No, fuck no.
But I understand that some people like to watch those. I don't condone it, obviously. But some people like watching those, but would never hurt anybody in real life.
Says, I want to send you a present by the general delivery, Orlando zip code. Contact Jenny off on
Facebook or Instagram or something like that.
She'll give the information.
Thank you. No need for me
Thank you very much. No need for me too.
Yeah.
See you guys later.
You guys would have fun making fun of Elliot Rodger.
I want to do an Elliot Rodger.
We should do an Elliot Rodger show because I will just never stop bagging on that fucking lame ass pathetic motherfucker.
Yeah, he's a trip. That dude there.
And his manifesto is just.
He had some issues that way.
No, you think?
Yeah, he had some issues.
Yeah, he had a few little issues.
He was kind of robotic. Yeah, he's very robotic. That was. We ought to do a show on that. Write that down. I want to do Elliot Rodger.
All right, I'll put that in the next poll actually, because I would. You know what though? It's those type of dudes. I don't know why, but it's like those type of dudes make me madder than any other type of dude.
All right, have a good one.
So I'm going to get like really, really angry on that show. So I'm sure like everybody will be like super into it.
Have a good one, Sal. See you around.
We talked about this on the Wednesday show, but ever since you've been like giving me, like ever since I've been on the testosterone, I'm kind of like...
Yeah, she's more energetic.
Well, I'm saltier.
She's salty, bitch.
Well, I was always salty before. I just kept it to myself. Now I don't.
Oh, here comes another one. Thank you very much,
Thank you, Victor. Do a show on incels in general.
We can do that.
Oh, you know what? I like that idea. I like that idea. But like I said, if you want to see me get like really, 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 really angry,
she gets all feminist with these motherfuckers.
You don't even want to see the feminist rage coming out of this bitch right here. You don't want to see it. There's like a lot of people make me mad, but I'm able to kind of like, I'm just like, man, I'm really mad right now, but it's like, it's not worth it.
Elliot Rodger
for some reason.
Prepper got it right, bro.
What?
Read what he said.
He was a supreme gentleman in his own words.
He was a supreme gentleman.
Yeah, he did call himself that.
I know.
I can't even.
I saw his little video and everything.
I can't even.
He's flirting with the camera. What's funny is
what are you even thinking? Like, what are you thinking? I was
looking at him. I was like, dude, man, your problem is that you're actually gay. You need to go after the dude.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Oh, thank you very much, Jennifer.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I was looking at him. I thought he might have been sexually confused. If I just
that could be.
If I just saw the dude walking around, I would think he was gay. Elliot Rodger.
I mean, but the thing about it is that, like, look, it's the 21st century.
If you're not a gay man, a gay robot.
Yeah.
He was like a C3PO.
It's the 21st century. It's not like the old, like, I understand, like, back in the old days, back in the shitty old days, when you had to pretend you were something you were not, like, all the time, you don't have to do that anymore. It's fine. It's like, yeah, people are going to make fun of you, but fuck them. It's like, you're not going to get arrested. You're not going to...
Victor said the same thing. He says, I thought he was gay, too. Yeah, he gave me gay vibes. But like I said, it was not a gay man, a gay robot. He gave me the C3PO vibes. You know what I mean? He's... How you doing? Hey, but he also gave me the mentally ill vibes. If you
like I said, I think
certain schizophrenics still sometimes kind of have that kind of robotic.
Which, like I said, it's sad, but it's kind of like in a sense, I don't know. Like I said, this is a spectrum because we're talking about Charles Whitman, and it's like I feel a little bit bad for him because he had a brain tumor and he seemed kind of aware of it, but not really. But at what point does your mental illness... Yeah, at what point does your mental illness get to a point... Like, you still, like, have a choice, though.
Yeah. Prepper says, don't forget to include his Ask.com post where he was talking about having a tiny dick and all sorts of weird shit that isn't included in his manifest. I did not know the penis angle. I didn't understand the penis angle, but that may have fucking... Yeah, that might have been a contributing factor. Yeah, that he was twisted himself up into a knot about having a little dick. Him and D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They handled it kind of differently, but same kind of attitude though. Right. I kind of feel like it all comes down to...
Prepper's going, the penis angle.
Yeah. Victor says, ugh, incels are the worst. I agree.
The penis angle.
It all comes down to... The problem with all the, like, incels and, like, even serial killers, like, the kind of same attitude that they have, it's like this entitlement issue. They think they deserve things. Yeah. No one deserves anything.
Victor brings up a good point. He says, but stuck-up guys always kind of seem gay to me. I understand what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I actually saw that in the Army. Fucking in my recon unit. We had some stuck-up fucking big-ass fucking Adonis fucking scouts in there. And there was something. It's one of them. He used to fuck with me, so I'll fuck with him too. Norman, I remember you, fucking specialist Norman. No, you came off as gay, bro. You came off as muscle gay to me. And he'd be like, "Fuck you, Ross. Fuck you, Ross."
You're like, oh, are you getting upset?
We used to say that shit to each other too, though. You know, it's just the way the Army was. You gay? Nah, you gay.
Well, yeah, because
it was gay wars.
Being feminine is
gay
the worst
wars.
Thing
yeah,
you can
he looked like a big old muscle.
Because women
gay.
are the worst. Geriatric punk
he was
says,
stuck up. He was stuck up, and
don't be stuck up.
Somehow, even a big muscular motherfucker who's acting stuck up comes across as being gay. A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I know you're talking about Vic Garcia. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, geriatric punk is saying, I don't even know what an incel is. It's a whole movement.
Celibacy.
Yeah, somebody said, no need for me too. It's involuntary celibacy.
Yeah.
It's this whole, what do you want to, is it a subculture?
Yeah,
I guess.
Okay, look, let me explain this. Let me explain this. They got dudes that are not having any success with women. So they get online.
Because they're creepy weirdos.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying. Hold your test. Fucking, yeah, you have dudes that are not successful with women, so they get online and they get in these forums and they start talking to each other and they start whipping each other up into a fucking frenzy, and then they do shit like fucking trade pictures and showing each other. When sometimes some of this shit was fucking hilarious. This goes back to the '90s, back when they just did forums and like on AOL and shit. Shit was fucking hilarious back then. If you want to know about old school internet culture, go look at a channel called Wang. WHANG, and I think it has an exclamation point, and he talks about all this kind of stuff. And individual guys from those conversations. Well, those dudes, they evolved over fucking 20-something years.
Yeah.
It's evolved into the incels of today. And it's a lot of factors. The reason why they're unsuccessful for women is, one, they look like shit. They look like shit mostly because they sit around and fucking eat junk food and they live sedentary lifestyles and they don't take showers and they have filthy fucking rooms. They're not really suitable for fucking dating.
Well,
Okay.
their whole thing is they think
So they
that
have
women
to-
should be able to accept them the way they are,
right.
but they won't accept
Right.
women the
Right.
way they are.
So you have these dudes.
They always want super hot chicks.
So you have these dudes, the rock bottom of the dating pool, and they can't understand why they can't get a supermodel. And they're jerking off to all these fucking porn chicks, hot porn chicks and shit online, and they're fucking sending money. They're simping to all these fucking cam girls, and they can't understand why that shit can't happen in real life. It's shit that. Well, me and Gramthars came up in a high school back in pre-internet, where you had to fucking walk the walk and talk the talk. It had to be face-to-face social skills. Some of these guys, they didn't. Most of these new guys, they did not come up in that environment anymore, so they can't take face-to-face rejection. So they can't approach, and they don't know how to engage. And
they can't take rejection at all.
At all, and then they can't even work on themselves. You go, dude, you got to take a shower. Dude, you got to clean your fucking room. Dude, you got to have a job. Dude, get a car. Dude, fucking comb your fucking hair.
Like, have
Dude,
something
have
to
fashion
offer.
sesh. That's right. Dude, go fucking do some shit. Dude, be something. Fuck, and they don't even have that. So it's just a very, very... So instead of fucking admitting to themselves that they haven't made themselves into anything, they blame the women.
Yeah, like, for whatever reason...
Yeah.
Hot women won't hang out with me, even though I don't have a job or a car.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
And I'm like ugly and don't shower.
Exactly.
And, you know,
now,
what the fuck?
But here's the fucking double standard. That same fucking incel will be walking around and he'll pass a female bum laying there in the fucking gutter, piss all over her and fucking shit like that. She's got no teeth. And she's going, come here, boy, come here. And he's going, nah. And she's like, fuck you. And he's like, these men are all assholes. You know what I mean? It's that same fucking thing. He is that woman. He's just doing it to somebody else. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's the same difference.
The thing that kills me, particularly about Elliot Rodger...
If you're such a cool dude, why aren't you fucking these bum chicks? See?
Well,
no. So you're a bum?
Well, that's kind of the same level as you.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's just, that's what kills me about, particularly somebody like Elliot Rodger, who wasn't a bum. At least he seemed like he showered and like dressed
he was trying to look like a model.
And had like a nice car and shit.
Yeah.
So at least he had like the outer trappings of success, if you want to call it that.
He just didn't act like a guy.
He was so weird and creepy and entitled that he thought that, okay, well, if I check off these boxes, well, I have a BMW. I look okay. I have this. So hot women should just like throw themselves at me. I'm like, that's not how it works. That's not how women work. I don't know if you don't know that. But it's like, so he was just expecting, oh, I have all this, so why don't women just like come flocking to me? Why should I have to do anything? And then he would blame women for his lack of impetus, I guess. So it's all our fault, even though we don't even know he's alive.
Right, yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, well,
that's crazy.
My take on Elliot Rodgers, I guess we're doing the Elliot Rodgers show now, but
no, we're not. We'll not. Eventually we will.
My take on Elliot Rodgers is that physically he definitely had what it would take.
He wasn't bad looking. He was just like a normal looking.
Now somebody say, "Well, he didn't have a dick." There's guys that didn't have a dick, and
that's not a deal breaker. It's really not.
I don't think most women really care about that. Well, depends on who they are. If it's a high caliber woman that could have it all, no, she's gonna go for the fucking dude with the dick, of course, because she's gonna go with the rich dude, the dick, and got all the fucking jobs because she's top tier woman. She can get that. But there's a lot of other women that fucking would have been within his range of getting. It's just that he probably felt he was too good for them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Entitlement.
And then, but I think a part of it was maybe lack of experience, and maybe something organic with him, because he was very robotic. He had the mannerisms of a person that had mental illness. So his mental illness, I think, mostly prevented him from fucking having normal relationships, but he didn't really know what it was, so he blew up. He blew up. He seemed to be on the autism spectrum. That's one thing.
He may have been.
And then he may have been slightly schizophrenic. But, I'm not a fucking doctor. But that's what he looked. It looked wrong. I mean, look at his mannerisms were wrong.
Yeah.
And if I was a girl, I'd be like, "There's something wrong with this guy."
Well, like I said, you come across like that, and
Yeah.
women are going to stay the fuck
Yeah.
away from you because they
Right.
can sense that you're a
There's
weirdo.
something wrong with that dude.
That there's something wrong with you, and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, maybe this dude might kill me.
Yeah.
You know, that's something we have to look out for. So, you know, he might rape me, he might kill me. You don't know.
He wasn't physically imposing. He was
No,
a
I'm
little
no,
bit-
but that doesn't always matter.
Yeah.
That doesn't always matter. It's because the thing is, it's like this dude could roofie me, at which point
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if he's physically bigger than me or not,
Pepper
because
said
I'm
that
unconscious.
Elliot was on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Pretty sure it's confirmed. He got government financial aid for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He did come across like that.
Yeah.
He did come across like that. And I'm not saying it's because it's fairly rare for people on the spectrum to be violent, but he was one of the few, I think.
Yeah.
But he did actually.
All right, let's
across
go
that.
ahead and shut this down, Jen. We got shit we got to do.
Yeah,
We
I
gotta
gotta
go.
get ready. We gotta go out.
Yeah.
We decided we're gonna go out tonight instead
Yeah.
of tomorrow night. It's like
Thank-
we'll get all our drinking out of the way in one night.
Thank you for those late super chats, people. For those that you have joined the show late, you can go ahead and just wait a few minutes, and the show will reload up, and you can watch it from the beginning. It was a good show.
I thought it came out good. We
Yeah.
got a lot of information out. We didn't
Yeah.
get too fucked up. We didn't get
Right.
too sidetracked.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, we knew we were going to go out afterwards. So Tom
Yeah.
said, I'm going to try not to sidetrack too much because, you know. But yeah, so we will be back on Sunday. Probably be talking about Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay.
Yeah, because we
saw that. A good movie.
we just watched
It's
that
streaming.
last night.
It's streaming for about $7 on Amazon.
What was it? It was $5.99 or $6.99?
$5.99, I think, or $6.99.
On Amazon, yeah.
On Amazon. It's worth seeing. It's a fun movie.
Just monster fighting.
Monsters fighting.
Which, like,
No dialogue.
I'm not mad at it.
Monsters fighting. Yeah.
it's the monster fighting
Yeah.
movie.
Good visuals.
But yeah. All right. So we will see you guys Sunday afternoon. So have a good weekend up until then. Thank you, everybody, for dropping by. Thanks for your super chats. We will see you guys on Sunday. And bye.